You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello and welcome to the 42 Cast, your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything. As always, I am your host, Nathan, and we have another great episode where we're going to talk to you about Superman and Lois, Season 3. But before we do that, let's meet our cast for this week. So starting off, she's usually with us on a Stargirl episodes, but here she is, one of the legends of tomorrow herself. Jess, how are you doing, Jess?
Hey, I am good, and I am excited to be here.
All right. And what's been going on for you since, I don't know, the last 6 months, 9 months since we recorded the Stargirl episode?
It's been a while. I just was realizing that. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't recorded with Nathan in ages. School is about to start for us. My oldest goes back next week. The little one turns 2 next month. So we're just staying busy. We made it through the summer without killing one another. The older one was at home with me while I was working, so that got interesting. But we got through it. She refused to do any camps. She just didn't want to do it. And I was like, you know what? We're going to roll with it. And we got through it. So it was okay. But that's pretty much it. It's been kind of a whirlwind spring and summer. I mean, it feels like once you hit spring break, just the rest of the year kind of like flies by, and now she's going back to school and it's going to go even faster. So
yeah, no, I know all about all that. My kids, we were able to keep them in camps for a little bit longer, but yeah, they eventually got to the point, like the year before COVID hit, like they were kind of like, yeah, no, we're done with the summer camps. We're not doing that stuff anymore. So it's kind of like, yeah, I get it. But
yeah. But oh, well, it saved me some money. I'll say that.
Right. Yes, that is true. That is true. They get quite pricey. But yeah, it's good to have you back on the show, Jess.
Good to be here.
All right. And next up, you know him as the Misdial of Destiny, my nemesis, Ryan. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm pondering that name. I mean, I don't hate it, but
it's like when you should have been doing something else, meeting somebody else, but you met Ryan instead. So, you know.
So it was a happy surprise. It's a bonus. You know? It's like going in and you think you're going to need a root canal at the dentist, but you win $1,000 instead. That's meeting Ryan.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah, no, I think you're the root canal when you were going to win the lottery.
Or what I am is no. In all honesty, what I am is $1,000 that lets you afford the root canal that you need. I'm the tough love.
You're the necessary evil.
I'm the necessary evil. That improves you. Yes, I'll take it. You know,
you're the thing that if it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
I'm the Thanos, but like the one that thinks a little bit. You know.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, how have things been going for you, Ryan?
Absolutely terrible. The other day, I went swimming in the ocean, which was it's in the Gulf of Mexico, which was probably my first mistake. But my second mistake was going in with my glasses on, and I lost them. So now I'm wearing an older pair of glasses, and it makes me realize just how blind I am, and how the pair that I lost were progressives, and these aren't. So it's just now I'm just lifting my glasses and taking them off all the time, and I just feel I feel like Superman, like Clark, but without.
All right, so you're the Thanos who thinks, but you went swimming with your glasses on.
I did. Yes. And because they were transitioned and it was bright outside, and I didn't expect to go like that far out, but I got dragged out, so And the moral of the story though is that I did not get a sunburn, so I'm really impressed with myself because I burned.
I lost my
audience can't see
glasses
it.
because I swam in the ocean with my glasses on, but I didn't get a sunburn.
Exactly. And that's a big deal. Okay. This
Yeah.
burns. Listeners, if you could see the whiteness here, it burns.
I feel
I'm
that.
pretty sure it's not the whiteness. I'm pretty sure Ryan burns for a different reason. Indirect sunlight.
Because also maybe I'm in Texas, which is like hell, but whatever.
All right.
But otherwise, yeah, I'm watching TV and catching up on things. Every time I turn around,
I mean,
there's
like
something
that's going to be a pretty much like a constant state now for the next 6 to 9 months.
Yep.
As all the content just goes away and nothing new is being made.
That's true. Honestly, I don't. Obviously I'm all for the strike, but or for a good outcome for the writers and actors. But the flip side of that is I don't think I'm going to completely mind a little bit of a break from new content all the time.
Maybe you'll finally watch The Gifted.
or Black Lightning, one of the two.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's good to have you back on the show, Ryan.
Good to be back.
And finally, she is the queen of cosplay, and that is my lady wife, Beth. How are you doing, Beth?
Oh, you know the answer to that question.
Yeah, but the listeners don't know the answer.
All right. So, listeners, I think the last time we recorded, I had some back pain and we didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you right now, Beth, this is probably going to release out of order with the Willow episode. I'm pretty sure this will come first.
Well, if this does go out before Willow, then you're going to know this is out of order.
That's
so,
right.
Huzzah. All right. Well, I had a herniated disc, not just one, but two, because why would I ever do anything in half measures? They're right on top of each other, L4, L5, and L5, S1, which is awesome. Not. I had to schedule an epidural injection a month out. The time came for that. Insurance was like, nah, you don't need this. We're not going to cover it. So I lost that appointment, only to be rescheduled another month out. So I've been flat on my back for 2 months straight. Today, I finally got that injection. And during the procedure, I almost passed out, which meant that they were going to cancel it while I was being poked. So I had to fight through that. I got oxygen up my nose. I got covered in wet towels and all this other stuff just to help me cope. But I was like, I am not rescheduling this with IV sedation. I'm doing this now. And I fought through it like it was in childbirth or something. I went into a different mindset. And when they were done, they were like, this is one for the books because this doesn't normally happen. Normally when someone has this reaction, they stop and they don't continue at all. So yeah, they were proud of me and I'm proud of me. So yay.
Good job, Beth.
We're proud of you.
I'm glad you didn't have to reschedule it either because
I
would have lost
so
it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
But so what are you working on right now, Beth?
I am currently sewing by hand a historical-esque chemise. I mean, I don't really have a date for this thing. It's just an underdress. I'm going to wear it to bed. I don't know. I just got to work on something,
Right. No, I know. You always work on something while we're podcasting.
Yeah, I have anxious hands. I have to do things with them. Productive things.
Yeah. So anything else you want to share? And this is not like directing you anywhere, Beth, just like what you've been doing since the last time you were on the show, which has been like 2 months.
No.
Okay.
The world kind of passes you by when you're in bed all day, so I don't really have much to say about that.
Yeah, but I know. I guess maybe to prod you a little bit, you want to talk about anything we're watching these days?
Clone Wars.
Oh, you want to talk about Clone Wars? Okay.
I guess. I mean, we're watching that.
Yeah.
What else are we watching?
I don't know. I thought you might say something about My Adventures with Superman or Cobra Kai. That's what I expected you to say something about.
We'll do that. That's better. Yes. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Clone Wars. I still feel like I'm slogging through it, but Ahsoka's cool.
We're kind of early in it still, though.
Yeah. What are we, season 2 now?
Middle of the second season.
Okay.
I hear it gets much better.
Yeah. Cobra Kai is amazing.
Well, that's what we've heard, and so we're like, all right, we'll try this. And like the first season and a half or so, we're kind of like, not great. It has a lot of the bad writing problems that the prequels had.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes with my daughter was that yesterday? She needed something to watch and she was bored of everything else. I was like, how about Clone Wars? And she's like, what's that? I'm like, Star Wars. And she's like, okay.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
She got through 2 episodes and it kept her entertained.
I could never get my kids into anything Star Wars related, so that's nice.
She actually loves Star Wars. I think she likes Star Wars more than I do, which isn't saying
cool.
a ton. I mean, I'd like Star Wars, but I'm not like a uber fan. So,
But yeah. So Beth, yeah, I mean, but yes, on a more positive side,
Cobra Kai.
You really love Cobra Kai.
I really love Cobra Kai. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure. You simultaneously love and hate the characters, but you just keep watching because it's so compelling and so good.
And I remember when we watched like the first 3 episodes, you were like, I don't really get it. I don't like this. And then
I was frustrated. Because they just kept rehashing the same mistakes over and over. But then you saw like character development, but then they recessed back to just a little bit, which is it's realistic. Like progression from a human standpoint is very slow. You make gains and then you slide back. You make gains and you slide back. That's just normal. So I understand that. But yeah.
All right. Yeah.
God, Johnny.
Yeah. Cobra Kai, I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. I gave it a try because everybody was raving about it. And
I actually saw people coming to work wearing Cobra Kai sweatshirts. And I was like, do you understand the concept of sweep the leg? What are you doing? Now I understand.
Yeah. So.
But I still wouldn't wear it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're actually going to do an episode on Cobra Kai eventually also because of that, which is rare for me to decide to do an episode on something that I wasn't planning on doing an episode on, but it did impress me as a show.
But then you were planning to do an episode on it. So, I mean...
Yeah, but usually I know, like before a Marvel movie comes out, I know we're going to do an episode. Whether or not I liked it or didn't like it, we're going to do an episode on it because it's it's a Marvel movie.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you got to leave some room for surprises.
Right. But yeah, so Beth, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so now it's time for our 5-minute controversy where, for those of you who are joining us the first time, this is just a way for us to loosen up before we talk about our main topic and gives you a little bit of insight into how we feel about something that's being talked about right now in the geekosphere. And so the article that I wanted to talk about today was somewhat related to what we're talking about because Marc Guggenheim, who is one of the big players in the Berlanti Productions company, he's co-created the Arrowverse and all the various DC CW shows that have come out, and he's been in the news a bit lately. He seems to have been kind of mad about James Gunn coming in and the fact that Gunn didn't have an like a meeting with him to discuss things. It was just kind of like, your stuff is done, goodbye, kind of feeling. And but now he's talking about Marvel. And so he said that the MCU is due for a reboot. Basically, and he believes that Secret Wars is where they're going to do that. So my question is twofold. One, do you think that the MCU needs a reboot? Two, do you believe that the MCU is going to do a reboot? So Beth, let's start with you because I know you had a very visceral reaction as soon as I shared it.
Yeah, I'm actually one of those jerk people who doesn't read the article and bases their opinion solely on the title.
This is a case where the title is pretty accurate.
It is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I figured that you wouldn't do that to me anyway. But yeah, my reaction was, dude needs to stay in his lane. I hate reboots so much. If things are going off track and they're bad, sure, fine, reboot it, whatever. But it hasn't really been that long in the grand scheme of things. It's an ongoing story. It's constantly evolving. And despite my opinions on Secret Invasion, that's a whole other podcast.
I haven't seen it yet. Don't talk about it.
That's why I'm not going to say anything. Like, Marvel's doing its thing. You did your own thing, Mr. Other Belanti person, whose name I've already forgotten. Good job. My brain is so rattled right now. I'm partially numb. I apologize.
Oh.
That wasn't anywhere near your brain.
It's part of the central nervous system. That counts. Anyway.
All right, I'll allow it.
Spaghetti noodles from my brain down to my back. God, now I've lost my train of thought. He had his thing. It's done. Move on. Do something else. Don't stick your fingers in other people's properties and tell them what to do with their lives, because we all know what happened to the Flash. You have your own problems to work out.
All right. Okay, Jess, what about you? What do you think about this?
On the one hand, I do pretty much agree with Beth. It's kind of just like, okay, you're pointing fingers at people and saying things that you yourself have done. So it's kind of like, why? Just keep to yourself, worry about your stuff. Like Beth said, stay in your lane. But like on the other hand, he has that experience of, hey, I've done this and it gets out of hand. But I think, I don't know, I feel like the Marvel universe, as sprawling as it is, has a slightly better handle on things than the CW version did. There was a lot of things that got forgotten, brushed under the rug. Some things just went like kind of took a left turn. Some shows I didn't even finish. Some shows I didn't even watch. And it kind of didn't matter. Like at some point with both of these things, it does get to be a bit of choose your own adventure. I've not seen everything in the Marvel universe either. I've seen a lot of it, and I've seen most of the CW stuff. And it's just when it gets that sprawling, it's like, people are just going to kind of watch it the way that they want to watch it. If it's lucrative, which I believe that it is, I think they're going to keep doing it because it brings in the bucks. So, I don't know, at that point, I'm just like, let the creators make the decisions, and then, I don't know, pull in some sound business sense. If they're losing money hand over fist, they're going to stop. If they're not, and it's not total crap TV that so much so that people stop watching everything, they're going to keep doing it. So I don't know. That was kind of my non-answer answer.
Okay. All right, Ryan.
I think Guggenheim must just have like, when his Google alerts don't get enough hits for his own name, he just has to throw something out there to start some sort of controversy or something, or wants to start a controversy. It doesn't really land. I get his reasoning, but that doesn't mean that he's right. Is the Marvel Cinematic Universe sprawling? And yes. Is it inaccessible? No. Those are two separate things, right? Like, it's like when I collected comics, I did not buy every single Marvel comic or every single DC comic. No one could afford to. Right now, am I able to keep up with all the MCU and DC products visually? Yeah. Will I always be able to? Time will tell. But I definitely don't think we're even at the point to consider. There are two reasons to do a reboot: quality and accessibility. So I don't think accessibility is an issue. Quality, you can have an argument about that, but even still, I think Marvel, the MCU, has had 3 fantastic phases that no one would question were high quality. It had one that was so-so, and now we're in a 5th one. So it's way too soon to say, oh, it's all crap now and we need to start over again. He did say that it was moving towards a Crisis on Infinite Earths type of storyline, and yeah, it is. I honestly think that's what Secret Wars is going to be, or they're going to do something. Everything has been about the multiverse lately, so they know what they're doing. I think we just have to have a little faith and let them write it out. Let them see where they're going with this. But I do think it's hilarious because Guggenheim is DC, and like DC's playbook is it's a little wild, it's a little uncontrollable. Reboot. So it's just funny. He's parroting the comic line. The comic is the only cure they have to anything that ails their industry on the DC end. So it more than anything, it cracks me up. reading. I laughed like 17 times.
He is waiting by his phone right now for that phone call from James Gunn. Like,
yeah.
Have you noticed me, senpai? So.
And like at the same time, he's like, "Hey, Kevin, James hasn't called me yet. I'm here. Marvel needs some help."
Oh my, that might be what it is. It might be like when The Rock, after Black Adam did poorly, for him to say like, "I'm always happy to see DC or Marvel do well in the theater." And it was sort of like his like Loki, like, "Hey, Kevin, call me."
I really feel like he's setting himself. It's like Marvel is Coca-Cola, DC is Pepsi, and he's out here looking for RC Cola to give him a ring.
Well, he obviously didn't get the phone call because like 3 weeks later he put out I'm doing a live action Moana movie now, like, he made a big deal. I've never seen somebody for something that just entered like the planning pre-production phase to put out a big like sort of promotional thing like he did for that. Whatever.
Going straight into a strike, no less. Yeah.
Right.
Well, so, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah,
what can I say?
I think
you're welcome.
There's two different things to consider with this Guggenheim thing. So first of all, does Guggenheim seem like he's sort of like out of control, just wanting to be noticed right now? Yes. Did he make his own Crisis on Infinite Earths that didn't really land as well as it should have, and in fact the aftermath of which was totally mishandled? Yes. So does it seem like he should be throwing stones? No.
I don't know how much was on him though of that.
Well, I mean that's true. I mean, I get there's a lot of moving pieces there with Guggen, with the whole DCCW thing, and so like, but still, I mean, but he's like the he and Berlanti are like the two highest people in that organization, so it's like he's got to own it. I mean, to some degree. But anyway. So the other way though of the other two things are on the Marvel side, is it a sprawling mega franchise? Yes, it absolutely is. Are they at a point now where they can make a whole show that's just about moving pieces on a board to where they want them to be for their next project without having any like actual plot or interest within that show itself? Yes, they can do that now because that is where they are at. That they're just like, people are just going to watch these things because they like the movies we make, and we can have a TV show with almost zero content other than, well, this character moves from A to B and this character gets C powers, and that's it. That's the show. Bye, everybody. But
like Secret Invasion, hate Secret Invasion, wait for Armor Wars.
Well, Don Cheadle said he's not doing Armor Wars as a TV show, so now it's a movie. So it's they already announced that well before the strike that they were going to make it as a movie.
But was it Don Cheadle or was it Don Cheadle?
So yes, there's. I think Marvel is still accessible in most cases, but it is starting to become a problem, I think. And I think I think our latest thing that I can't really talk about right now is kind of an example of that. But then the question is, are they going to reboot? And I think Secret Wars is going to be a way for them to reset things. I think that's what they want. I think we are going to see them acknowledge some of the licensed films from before Disney owned everything, and there's going to be some sort of a merger or whatever to sort of reset, especially by putting the X-Men into the main universe with everybody else, and I think that's what they're going to do. Is that my preference? No. I would much rather that they started slow and just started introducing that. Yeah, there were a few mutants, but because of all this crazy stuff that's happening on Earth, like, more children are being born with mutant powers, and doing like a sort of slow ramp up within the movies to mutants. But I think we're basically going to hit a switch, and then it's going to be like, oh, wow, there are mutants everywhere now. And it would not be my preference. And we'll see. And maybe it's not going to be that way, but I think that's one of the things that Secret Wars is going to do, and I think they are going to reboot. not only to kill some content, but also to just smush in the X-Men, I think. But yeah, so I think he's right. I think it doesn't have to be that way, and I think that with good writing and planning, Marvel could definitely do everything it wants to do without doing a reboot. The problem is, I think we're starting to see the truth of a lot of those interviews that said, like, everybody who thought that the first 3 phases were pre-planned, no, it's just basically a happy accident. Like, they had a very, very vague notion of where they were going, and just things came together really, really well with, Infinity War and Endgame. And several different people have said that basically, like, it wasn't pre-planned, like, a lot, but now they're actually having meetings where they go to like a resort somewhere and plan out the next 10 years. And so the funny thing is, now that they're planning it, it seems to be more flawed than when they were just letting things sort of go and sort of organically growing it. So we'll see how it goes.
The first 3 phases, they were hungry, and you could tell. Like each movie was like, this could be the last one. If this bombs, we might take down the whole cinematic universe. And now they know they're an unstoppable juggernaut, and they're like, yeah, whatever, Right. And that does come across.
It lets them take some risks, and some of the ones that people don't like Eternals, I actually really liked. But and so they are doing some risky projects and things, but I also feel like because they're sort of certain that we can get away with just about anything right now, there is a sort of laziness kind of seeping in too, and that's kind of a problem. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how it ultimately goes, but I do think there's some truth to what Guggenheim is saying. But like I say, I mean, dude, when you live in that glass house, you should not be throwing those stones. But all right, so that was our 5-minute controversy. We're going to talk about Superman and Lois season 3, but first we're going to pause for a promo from another fine podcast.
What if you could bring 3 experienced producers into your home each week to discuss your favorite movies and the people that made them? That's Tales from Hollywoodland. Your hosts, Arthur, Julian, and Steve, collectively have years of showbiz producing experience. Their weekly show is a fast-paced, fun, and very conversational experience, like spending a good time with your best movie-loving friends and family. Tales from Hollywoodland is available wherever fine podcasts are found. See you at the movies.
And we're back. And like we talked about at the top of the show, we were talking about Superman and Lois season 3. Now, Jess, you have not been with us talking about Superman and Lois, even though I know you cover it on your podcast. So just sort of high level, what did you think about the first 2 seasons of Superman and Lois?
Oh man, I love this show. Like, I think that it is so well done. I think by far and away that the show as a whole is one of the best ones that the CW has ever done. And I do think that might be in part to the original partnership with HBO Max or whatever we want to call things these days. And I mean, we've loved it from the beginning. We've been covering it from the beginning, and I absolutely love Tyler and Bitsy as Clark and Lois. I think that they are amazing, and they have become my favorite Superman / Clark and Lois. So I mean, I can't say enough about the show. I think it's incredibly well acted. It's well written. It's layered well. It's shot, directed. The cinematography is beautiful. Like, I absolutely love the show. I think it's so good.
All right. So getting into season 3, it's almost it's interesting to me because this was shorter than the first 2 seasons by a few episodes. But then they made it even shorter still by the storyline, the main storyline of the season basically being wrapped up by the 11th episode, and then the final 2 are almost kind of their own thing. But let's start out just by talking about sort of the big, I guess, controversy, change, whatever you want to call it, with Jonathan being recast within this season. So what do you think about the new Jonathan? Let's keep with you, Jess. What do you think about the new Jonathan and what they did with Jonathan this season?
So I liked ultimately, I like the way that they took Jonathan's storyline, because he desperately needed something to do and to continue to be relevant and to have a point. Because I think they, like, in the first season, like, he started a little bit and it was like he had a purpose, and then he kind of just slowly but surely got like pushed to the background. And then in season 2, the actor got more screen time with his Bizarro World version, but his storylines, I still didn't feel like it went anywhere. So I like the fact that they were able to turn around that storyline. And I thought they did a pretty good job with the recasting. The first few episodes, I should say, it was a little bit jarring, just trying to get used to the new Jonathan, just the way that the new actor was playing the character and trying to embody the character, because he has to keep certain things about his performance that Jordan Elsas did, but at the same time, he also has to start to make the character his own. And I felt like he did a decent job. And as over the course of the season, I came to really like this actor as Jonathan, and I felt like he fit into the family dynamic maybe a little bit better than I felt like Jordan Elsas's portrayal did. And I don't know if that's necessarily a writing decision, a directing decision, or the actor's choices for the character, or all of the above, mishmashed together. But overall, I was pretty happy with it. It was a little weird at first. It always is when there's someone recast that you've been watching for the last 2 years, and it's a little different. But I thought it was pretty well done. So
okay, and Beth, what did you think about Jonathan? Sorry,
Jonathan.
The same as Jess. I really felt like the first 2 episodes, it was an adjustment period for me, and I think that's the same for most in the audience, because it was so unexpected, and it was unexpected for them too, as I understand it.
Yeah, he just didn't show up during call. It was just where is he? Yeah,
and I understand why he didn't continue the series, and I wish the best for him. But with the new portrayal of Jonathan, I did see slowly over time how his performance of the character slowly tweaked into his own style. It wasn't a sudden jarring, this is my version. It was still paying homage to the original Jonathan actor and slowly becoming more natural to his movements, the way he carries himself. At first, he did a really good job of emulating that, and I thought that was very nice and very respectful. I also felt that he did feel out of place in the previous 2 seasons, where in this season, when they're at the hospital and Jordan's X-ray vision's coming in and he's having a panic attack, Jonathan naturally went back to that relationship they had when they were living in Metropolis, where he helped him cope with that the mental health side of things, where he helped him to calm down and center and get back in control of things, because Dad wasn't there to help, who had that expertise and the powers, but Jonathan was there with the experience with the mental health side of things. And so it showed that he does still fit in this family. He does have the background with them, and that I felt was a really nice touch.
Hey, Ryan?
To begin with, I liked the chemistry between the original Jonathan, played by Jordan, and his brother, Jordan.
Not confusing at all.
Yeah,
Not
not in the least. Yeah.
Friend of the show, Alex Garfin, mentioned that was
yeah,
always a confusing thing.
And that's you may want to edit this out, Nathan. I don't know, but after listening to that interview, I was when I heard one of the sons was being recast, I was like, oh God, thank God it's that one. Thank God it's Jordan or Jonathan. But
I would have interviewed Jordan Elsis if I'd ever gotten
obviously.
a chance.
It's like, any cast.
But I'm going to work in friend of the
right
show,
now.
Alex Garfin, into any conversation that I can. So
as you should, 100%.
And there'll be a link to that interview.
Right. Just look
Check
at the
your
show
shows.
notes. Yeah. Go back and listen to my Alex Garfin interview, who was actually one of the most engaging and fun guests that I've had on the show. Like, I mean, it really is worth listening to. But anyway,
He was adorable.
I'll just literally put it this way: for that interview, I'll give you this plug here, Nathan. When that dropped, I was in New York City for work, and I was walking the streets of New York listening to that interview rather than paying attention to New York. So there you go. I'll give you that one.
That might be a little dangerous, but okay. Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, come on.
Just steps out into the street in the car.
Oh God.
The podcast. I was just paying attention to the podcast and not the city.
Meanwhile, little Matt Murdock reaches his kid out and's like, "Don't cross."
There you go. Now Jordan Kent would save me. I'm positive of that. But getting back to what I was saying is, I felt like when they originally cast Jonathan with Jordan, that like just physically and the way they were starting it in season 1, it felt like, okay, this Jonathan, the original Jonathan he's more Lois's son. He's more like physically, he looks more like Lois, and what they're going to do with his story, he's got to use his brain more than any powers. And then it felt like season 1, they were setting him up to be like the battery. Like it felt like, I swear they had some sort of plan that they were at least considering, where Jordan's powers wouldn't work unless Jonathan was there or something. We've talked about this before. It really seemed they were going that way. And then by the end of season 2, like, yeah, they're not doing that. And then also by the end of season 2, it just kind of felt like Jonathan was just kind of like, oh yeah, and it's like, here's Jordan. Oh yeah, and there's Jonathan over there too. They weren't quite sure. They had to have.
I had a drug abuse
character.
Story. Everyone, see, notice me.
Exactly. On a very special episode of
right. Lois. Well, that's what I said. Like season 2 started feeling like a CW show, whereas I didn't feel like season 1 did.
True.
But then when season 3 comes around, and it kind of felt like they got a chance to reboot the whole relationship, to reboot all of it. Physically, I honestly feel like this new Jonathan actually looks more. They look more like twins.
Yes,
they actually do look more like brothers. And while I'm not 100% sure that they have the same chemistry that the original Jonathan did with Jordan, there's still definitely chemistry there. And it took me, I was halfway through the first episode of season 3 by the time I forgot, and by the time that he was just firmly planted as a Jonathan in my head.
Well, yeah, like they didn't have the time they had with casting the first 2 brothers to do screen testing and all that kind of stuff. This was like, we absolutely need someone in the right age, like in 2 weeks. Like that was the time frame they had. So I mean, it was
a tall order.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was on the list originally. Like, was he the second choice to begin with? I don't know.
It could have been. Yeah.
That's true. I didn't think about that. They went down the callback list to see if anyone was still available.
Exactly. So if I learned that, I wouldn't be surprised. But then also, if I learned that they real quick get someone and they pulled him out of nowhere, I would think it was serendipity. It worked so well. This is quite possibly the best recasting I've seen in a long time, if not ever.
Okay.
It did work shockingly well by the end of the season. Shockingly well.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing with the time frame they had to deal with that they got someone as good as they did that worked as well as they did. Because this wasn't like we knew we were losing the actor at the end of the season, so we had 3 or 4 months to find a replacement. This was literally like he didn't show up when everybody was supposed to be on set, so we got to scramble, right? Yeah, like to find somebody because cameras are rolling in 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean that's amazing. I will say that for me, like I did like everybody's saying, like once he's there, once he's on screen, you start forgetting that he is a recast and you're just used to seeing him as part of the cast. I will say there was a sort of how do I want to put this? I feel like Jordan Elsis had I don't know, like a feeling like he had an axe to grind a little bit, that like the new Jonathan feels much more like you said, like part of the family, but there's no longer any of that sort of like bite to the character. Like he's a much more easygoing, I guess would be the term, like he's an easygoing, kind of character. And so they lost a little bit of that, which I do have a little bit of sadness about.
I preferred this. The constant axe to grind thing was
it was getting a little
stressing me out to watch.
Well, yeah,
well, but you don't have to. It didn't have to go the way it did. It did feel like the writers just didn't know how to deal with him. But I totally think it is legit for the situation for him to learn that his dad is Superman and that his brother has superpowers. I think it is totally legit for like the other brother to feel like, holy crap, like I thought I was this superstar athlete and now the rest of my family are actually like gods and I'm nothing. For there to be like some resentment, I think that that's like natural and human. It doesn't mean that he has to go down a villain's path or to do something like really like crazy. It just means, like some resentment is natural.
He did look good in that goth jacket, though, I will say.
I wanted them to play more with the grandpa taking him under his wing and like sort of training him, in like just like normal hand-to-hand combat kind of stuff, but also like maybe him developing like some sort of closer relationship with Sam just because of that. They really dropped that in this season. It was like, it was sort of like a place we were going.
Or they are setting him up to, like go the engineer's path and follow John Henry, because that's what they were kind of doing with the original one. But to your point, Nathan, I get the whole axe to grind bit, but what the two things I like about the show, because you got to realize that character, you're the star football player in Metropolis. We're going to take you to freaking small town Kansas, and then, oh, by the way, also your brother is a god among men, but so I get that, but I feel like this evolution of his character works because they portray it in a healthy family setting, right? I mean, like you said, he could go down the dark villain's path, or whatever, and that's what we expect. But what's beautiful about this series is how it turns that on its head and just says, hey, this is a kid who had some problems. He's pouting. He's going through puberty. Things aren't going his way, but we're going to handle this in a healthy family way.
I think you misheard me when I said that they don't or shouldn't go down like a dark villain's path with it. I'm just saying that some resentment is natural,
Yes.
No, I agree.
And they spent 2 seasons dealing with it, 2 seasons working through it like a family, like in a healthy family way, is what I'm saying.
I think that's fine. I'm just saying like the character himself is a little more laid back, a little bit more, and I think that's a performance thing, and that's not like a radical transformation has occurred in him kind of thing. I think that's just choices that actors make, or just the natural disposition of the actor. So, and like I say, I like the original Jonathan. I thought there were some interesting places they could have gone from season 2, where it feels like this is pretty much like a reset. Like I think they've almost forgot everything that happened to him in season 2, other than the coach. The coach is the only callback to season 2. Like, you ruined our season.
Yeah, they took the axe to grind and gave it to the coach. But I think, honestly, between seasons, I mean, he had that time to process what happened with Bizarro Jonathan, and maybe he saw a bit of himself in that Jonathan that he really didn't like, and so maybe he did some introspection. There you go.
Okay.
There's a lot of time jumping this season.
Yeah.
I will say that.
He got a truck. That's what healed everything.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, to be fair, give a 16-year-old a car, and they'll be happy for a little while.
Yeah.
This show, I will say this, and this is one of these things with this show, that it seems like they always like lay these seeds for like character stuff that then they just leave by the wayside. Like, it's just like, oh, it looks like we're going to do something here, but oh crap, the main plot is heating up now. So let's just forget about all this character stuff we were doing because we got to deal with the main plot. And it's just kind of like, I wish this was one of those shows that I think puts the lie to this idea that like less episodes per season is better. Because I feel like this is a show that could use 22 episodes a season. And I would not mind like some episodes that are totally character based and have no connection to the main plot or whatever the villain, is doing, kind of thing. And I think that would, allow them to develop more of those sort of storylines. So, but anyway. let's talk about Jordan, played by a friend of the show, Alex not Jordan, who played Jonathan. So Ryan, we haven't started with you yet. What do you think about Jordan's development this season?
It was interesting because, maybe he's actually kind of the inverse of what we've saw with Jonathan over the course of the past couple of seasons. As usual, Jordan's coming to terms with his powers and his abilities and his place in the family, but he also is turning into a bit of a jerk. I mean, he's basically what you would expect a 16-year-old with superpowers to be. He did everything but use his X-ray vision to stare through, like, the girls' locker room or something like that.
That we know of.
That we know of. I mean, which Smallville did. So, but
I never saw Smallville. I didn't know they did that.
Well, in defense of Smallville, that's just when his superpowers, his X-ray vision came in at that time.
Oh, it just happened to come in while he was in the locker room, so he could peer into the girls' side. Okay. Wow.
But getting back to Jordan, yeah, I get his desire to want to do good, to be a hero, and all this other stuff, but this is being cast with his abilities through that time of a teenager when mom can say fire hot and they're like, no, it's not. So yeah, nothing that Clark or Lois said was going to really register with him, and it really just kind of pushed him in that opposite direction. This is just, I mean, can you even imagine? And there was that hint of the way it was played. I knew it wouldn't go that way, but there's always that hint of fear that you realize he's virtually uncontrollable, and that if he wanted to do something, there's virtually no way of stopping him. At least not for Lois. She has zero power over him. And because he's Clark's son, he was raised right, that nothing's going to happen. But in the back of your head, there's that little fear, like, what do you do? And I even felt that towards the back half of the season, Clark was getting impatient with him. Clark, you could see that sense, that exasperation, that sense of like, he's like literally like, you're not too old for me to throw you over my lap or something like that, I mean, which I don't know how I don't know how you discipline a superpowered child, a superpowered 16-year-old.
Well, I mean, the real thing is like that he brought Clark, like the more fascinating part of that to me is less about how do you discipline him, and the fact that we have Clark Kent / Superman, the moral paragon that Tyler Hoechlin has embodied so well, and it looks like he is about to spank his child, which starts to raise questions about who he is as a person, and because there are all sorts of like he's going to use physical force against his child, is that acceptable, and what, I mean, what does that mean about him and his, moral, standing and, stuff like that. And it's all super believable. That's what I like about it, that you can both see him as this heroic figure and this person that always tries to do the right thing. But then you also see the huge disappointment that his son, like, he feels like he failed as a father because his son is looking at superpowers for personal gain, which is something that he never even considered. Like, he internalized all of that so much as a kid, like that the consequences of using his powers, that even as a teenager, Clark never thought about doing that. Or never enough to start acting on it. Like, he might have imagined it or whatever, but he never acted on it. And so he sees Jordan doing that. And he talks about, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something like how did I screw up with you, or something along those lines, like, how could you ever do that, like I never would have done that, kind of thing, where it's just like he feels like he screwed up as a dad. And so all of that and all of the anger about it and the frustration and all of that is just it's so compelling and good, because it is such a real thing. Like, we're not treating this like heroes and superpowers. We're treating this as a family that just happens to have superpowers thrown in, and that's what this show does. That's so good.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I think that is one of the things that makes this show so great, is I don't want to say family drama, even though that's kind of what it is, but it's not drama for the sake of drama. It's incredibly well done, it's well written, it's relatable. Even, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it, but even Lois's storyline throughout the season, it's very real world, it's very relatable, and I think it's something that this show does incredibly well. And then, like I said, I mean, like on our show, we kind of talk about it the same way. It's like a family drama with superpowers thrown in. It's like it's very believable and it's very relatable on that front. And that's one of the things I think that makes it so good and like timeless in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, and like while I felt like the first season didn't go into CW territory at all, I do feel like there are some failings both in the second season and this season, but this isn't one of them. And like you mentioned, the Lois plot isn't one of them. Like that feels real. That doesn't feel like we're just doing drama for the sake of drama. But Beth, what do you think about Jordan this season?
He just turned into such a whiny little and
he's like a 15-year-old kid or maybe 16. Like,
yeah, but the entitlement he had towards Sarah was just like really.
Well, no, that was CW. That was CW-ness right there. I'm talking about but yeah, okay.
But listening to Ryan and Jess reason through that, I feel better about it because of reasons.
Well, they're talking more about him trying to just make himself look all big and awesome and everything. Like that's more of that. Where I totally understand that because I think 99% of teenagers who got superpowers would be trying to look all awesome for everybody to get all the attention and all of that. So I totally see that and think that is very real. But yes, the Sarah thing was.
I just imagined Jordan posting something on like Snapchat or whatever the kids are using these days, Instaham, and being like, feeling awesome, might delete later, #flex or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, it was very, very teenager.
Yeah. The Sarah thing was also very real, but was very real in that sort of like painful kind of way of you broke up with me and I'm not happy about it. I'm going to pout and make a big deal about it. And that was.
My balls are shriveling. Oh.
It was
fly.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting though because like I think like Beth was saying that we kind of revisit at least with the Jonathan and Jordan relationship. Jordan struggles with mental illness, and so that kind of plays into it. Like, what happens when you have a character who has struggled with depression their whole life, and you give them the power of Superman? Say what you will. Growing up, I'm going to assume Clark. I mean, granted, he's the sole survivor supposedly of his planet, so you'd think he would have every reason to be depressed, but he didn't. He wasn't. Not like Jordan has been, and it makes you wonder: is it the human half of Jordan? Or is Clark just a bad father? What led to this outcome of him being?
I will say that is one of the things I felt like they've mostly dropped, and even though they did kind of pay lip service to it this season, was Jordan's mental health struggles. Like the first season, it was very much in the forefront for like the first 2/3 of the first season. Then it was kind of like, well, now the plot's ramping up. Second season, they like seem to forget entirely that he had ever had mental health struggles. And this season, like I say, they kind of bring it up when Lois is going in for the procedure and whatnot, but it still doesn't feel like they've really addressed, because they almost made it seem like once his powers manifest, it was like, oh, mental health, what mental health problems, I'm fine now. And it's like, and I know when I talked with Alex, that was one of the things he said was like they at least promised him at that point, between seasons 1 and 2, that it wasn't going to go away, because that was one of the things he really liked about the character and sort of working with that struggle. And I really wish they paid a little bit more attention to that. We saw more of that as far as like, and understood more of where he's at with that.
Well, I mean, I think it's very subtle, but I think you do see it with his relationship with Sarah. Because yes, he's a jerk to Sarah, but at the same time, it's like, oh, you're totally gonna want me back. Look at me, I'm a superhero now. It's just, it goes beyond.
Yeah, but there are a lot of kids that act that way that don't have mental health struggles. That's just a struggle of they can't stand rejection.
Being a teenager.
They should have played Jordan going goth. this season. I don't know.
I mean, they kind of went more the emo route. I'm not gonna lie.
Although I will say that I'm still really confused about like it seems like they do press some reset buttons sometimes, because like second season was like, okay, Sarah's like, all right, like you're not telling me the truth about some things. I can tell you're lying to me. We're going to be, separated because of that. And then it's like she found out all the truth. And then it was like, I want to be back together with Jordan, but mom's not letting me. And now it's like, okay, well, now apparently they're on a break again, but I don't understand anymore, because at the end of last season, she was all about wanting to get back together with him. It feels like we skipped something important, and, they didn't really explain what it was.
Yeah.
Was it last season 2, where she kissed someone at camp or something like that?
Yes.
Right, that was the beginning of the season.
Yeah, okay.
That was the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
but they moved
Between
past
1 and
that
2
really quickly. It was kind of like that was there. They like we all thought that was going to be significant, and then it turned out not to be. But then it was because he kept hiding from her that he was running off to save people or whatever, use his powers. And so she knew he was lying about something, but didn't know what. And so she was like, as long as you're lying to me, we're not going to be together. But then she found out. And then she started thinking about super sex, and she was like, I want to be with him. And their mom was like, no, because if I didn't get super sex, you're not getting super sex. So I'm sorry, I'm reading subtexts. Lana kept staring off in the distance after she found out that Clark was Superman, and I know exactly what she was thinking about.
Oh God.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
I want to say you're wrong, but
We here at 42 Cast would like to apologize on the conduct of our host Nathan. He'll get better, we promise.
I'm sorry, that was there. That was totally there. But anyway.
42 Cast After Dark.
42 Cast After Dark. It's 9:15 here.
42 Cast After Dark. Wait,
Yeah.
we always record at nighttime. Okay.
No, that's not actually true, but usually we record at nighttime.
I think the Dragon Con rule is 10 p.m. We're still shy, but
okay. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of realism to what was going on with Jordan. Even the stuff that I didn't like, that I felt like was sort of CW level drama with him and Sarah, it was probably ramped up a bit more. Like, my problem was less that it happened and more that it happened all season.
yes. It
Like,
got old.
if in the beginning of the season he was acting that way, and then like came to grips with it and realized he was being a jerk and moved on, and we were like maybe 4 or 5 episodes in, I'd feel a lot better about it than literally the last episode of the season for him to finally be like, I guess we can be friends now.
Yeah, it was too teenage angsty, like you said. That part was too CW for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about Lois, because I think this was one of the most surprising parts of this season, and was, I feel like, incredibly powerful. So why don't you start us off on this one, Beth? What did you think about Lois and her struggle this season?
I absolutely loved the whole arc with Lois this season. I don't have any personal experience with what she went through, or know anyone close to me who went through this, but I felt like the portrayal of it was way different than anything else you see in media.
Yes, because it was real.
It makes me think that either she or someone close to the writing team or somebody went through this and had that real experience to draw from, to direct, write, produce, all of it, what was happening here. And there were parts of the episodes where I was just like on the verge of tears. Everything hurt to watch her endure this, and it was so incredibly powerful.
Ryan, what do you think about it?
Oh, it was fantastic. I also feel like this is most people I've talked to who've watched this season loved it. There are a few people I've seen online who are like, oh, so boring, so terrible. Get back to, and yeah, they aren't my friends, but they're like friends of friends or in groups or whatever.
At first, I thought when you said like somebody online, I thought you were gonna say like it's too painful, like I can't watch it. Like that, I would get.
Oh
like,
no,
like,
yeah,
like it was too real. Like I can't watch this. Like, God, like boring.
I know, yeah, exactly. Well, they're the people. I'm sure they're the Zack Snyder fans.
Could we make it a little more gray and lots of people punching things?
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, can the cancer like burst out of her chest and attack Superman?
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
But
10 times more testosterone.
yeah,
Oh, God.
exactly. But it was phenomenal. I mean, it was, it was, for lack of a better word, it was beautifully done, beautifully written. I can totally believe that there would be people who it was just too painful for them to watch because it hit too close to home. But I feel like they literally said, "Hey, what can't Superman beat?" It's like, what villain?
Yep.
What's going to render Superman impotent? And I feel like, at least at the beginning of the storyline, they did a great job of showing his powerlessness, his inability. And I love the fact that they took it out over the entire season to have Lois deal with it, to go, through all the stages: grief, denial, even her feelings of not going to be able to be intimate with Clark again. Oh my God, it was just so well done, and so, for lack of a better word, adult, mature.
Right. Yeah. Not adult how
Yeah.
people usually mean adult, which is, ooh, like R-rated content, like adult and mature,
No.
like actual
Yes.
mature stuff.
Yes, this is like award-winning writing stuff. But
I've gotten
frankly
chills head to toe just talking about this part of the season. To just give an example. Whoa.
yeah, I mean, if people, if there was someone who would tell me, like, oh, I don't want to watch a comic book movie, they're just, the two examples I would give of how this genre can be so much more would be this, and probably like certain episodes of like Star Trek or something like that.
Yeah.
Because this was, but the fact that, like I said, they did it all season long. It wasn't a 3-episode arc. It wasn't, and at the very beginning, again, what this series does so well is it does turn expectations, on their heads. Because if this was the CW, if this was Arrow, if this was the Flash, they'd find a cure.
Right.
It would be, we can go to
Exactly.
the Fortress of Solitude and use Kryptonian technology, but they nipped that in the bud immediately. They're like, nope, sorry, can't do that. And they were like, you know what, this is real. You're going to have to deal with it. And in that sense, it was just, it was. And where it led the story through her relationship, her making friends. Oh my gosh, the other women during the chemo treatments. I've been with family members as they've gotten chemo, and it's just it hits. It really is it was very powerfully done, and I can't say enough good things about it. But I'll stop now.
Okay. Jess?
Yeah, no, I am right there with everyone. I mean, I have had family members go through this. I have had friends go through this. So when I say it was real, they made it real. I mean, it was hard for me to watch at points. I personally have not gone through it. I hope that I won't, but who knows what's in my future, given things that have gone in my own family. But there was a lot of it that got hard to watch because it was so well done. They were very intentional about their research and their writing, and they were very meticulous to make sure that this was a real world thing, that this was Lois's villain, and that this was her battle all season long. Because there were times where we were like, oh, well, why don't they just do this and go to the Fortress of Solitude? And then they had that answer, and they're like, okay, well, oh, it's going to be this. It's going to be with his blood. They're going to come up with some miracle cure for Pia, and they're going to use it on Lois. And I absolutely love that they did not do that, because when they took this arc throughout the whole season and made it as real as they did, she needed to beat it on her own through real world medicine, things that we have available today, because that was kind of the point of the story arc. They were trying to be intentional about telling this story, that it was very powerfully written, powerfully acted. It was heartbreaking so much of the time, but it was also hopeful and encouraging to see her come out on the other end. And so I don't know, I absolutely love it. Especially with like Pia's storyline. I don't know, that actress, I mean, she is phenomenal, but she's also a cancer survivor herself.
Oh.
And so that made her performance that much more real. And so yeah, it's pretty wild what they were able to accomplish. I think when they first said that that's what it was, I was like, oh, they're doing a cancer storyline. I was like, I think this is going to be worse than a pregnancy storyline, because we all know how pregnancy storylines normally go. And that's what they were trying to set up. And I was like, oh, I don't know about this, guys. Like, I really just don't know. My co-host that I was talking to, and I mean, seriously, they did it incredibly well. I mean, so many episodes brought me to absolute tears. It was wonderfully done.
Yeah.
The two things I was surprised that they didn't do is suggest either through Lois or through some other means, or Clark's own internal doubt, that maybe he caused her cancer.
Oh.
You know, when I was really expecting them to he's an alien. She carried alien babies. I mean, you know, all the supervillains he's fought. It was entirely possible that her being, you know, the same way, because, you know, in the comics, you know, Lex got cancer through a kryptonite ring,
right? But that was from kryptonite. Yeah. And also, like Betty Banner in the Hulk, like, got cancer because, you know, he's radiated. Exposure. So yeah.
So I was half expecting them to do that, but the other thing that they didn't do, and I mean, I don't know. It's not really for me to say one or the other, but like, I'm really surprised, and maybe this was the actress's choice, maybe it was they told her not to do it. I don't know, but I'm really surprised they didn't do any sort of hair loss with Lois through the series.
They sort of did. So they actually started the series with like fuller hair and hair extensions, and they slowly thinned it over the course of the entire season. Bitsy, to be fair, she was legit prepared to like shave her head and do the whole thing. But I think the way that, like, now don't quote me because I could be wrong, but I think some of the more modern drugs, and she was always like wearing that cap when she was in the chemo chair, I think that's supposed to help you keep your hair, but they did intentionally thin her hair over the course of the season. But yeah, you're right, they did not full on go with like complete bald, although Bitsy was like, she was dedicated. She would have done it.
Yeah, I believe
she's amazing.
That's a good point. That is one aspect of the cancer thing that we've seen, you know, in other things that they didn't display like fully. But that is neat, though, that they took like what Jess is saying, that they took the time to, like, you know, at least try to show like a slow progression of that. Although for people like Ryan and myself, we didn't notice.
If I binged it, I knew to look for it. Yeah, I knew to look for it. So I did start to notice it towards like the end of the season. Her hair gets a little bit shorter, a little bit thinner, because they've taken out all the extensions and stuff.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool, though. They're paying attention to that level of detail. But yeah, as someone who, I have had people like in my life go through cancer, but like one was someone that discovered it super late and passed very quickly afterwards, and so we didn't go through the whole chemo thing. And the other one was my grandmother, who lived in Massachusetts when I lived in Florida. So I mean, like, I didn't see what was happening, I just knew that it was happening, kind of thing. So I've never had like the real direct, you know, obviously I've seen it displayed in other things. I've heard of people's accounts, you know, about, you know, cancer and what it does to you and everything. And so, you know, like, you know, but like this was such a well done performance for actually helping, like making you feel like what the person is going through. Because like so many levels of it, to like, I mean, Ryan brought up the thing about her being like concerned about intimacy and everything, which is something that, you know, I wouldn't have even thought about on the surface of it. You know, it was just kind of like, oh, like, you know, you got to get rid of the, you know, the stuff that's hurting your body, whatever, you know, you go through it. But like her concern about it.
The red dress episode was powerful.
Oh, the dress. Oh my God.
I think I cried on that one.
I cried on most of them, but that one, oh God.
But yeah, it was like, like how these things become so much more meaningful to her because of, you know, because everybody's just like, it's a dress. And she's like, yeah, but it's like, what that dress symbolizes is, you know, her being able to go out and do things where she goes to a fancy ball and, you know, is dressed up nice, and, you know, she doesn't feel like she can do that anymore if her, you know, her body is mutilated and, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's just like, oh my God, like, you know, the pain. And yeah, like it's so phenomenally well done. And I guess a little bit of spoilers, I feel like, you know, in the last 2 episodes when they decided to like jump a row of sharks, you know, it felt like such a letdown after such a powerful like season, going through all this stuff. But yeah, so let's talk about Clark this season also, because like Ryan brought out, this is a villain that Clark can't defeat. Oh, I will say the thing that I was expecting them to do that they didn't do was for Manheim to have some like technology or something. Because again, I was also thinking comic book related, where like Manheim is behind Intergang. Intergang deals with Apocalypse and Darkseid, and they have access to alien technology. And so I was thinking, oh, like he's gonna have something where he makes some sort of like tries to make some sort of bargain, like, you do this for me and I will cure the cancer miraculously. And I am so glad we didn't go there.
Deal with the devil.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Deal with the devil sort of thing. And I was like, oh, they're putting her through this cancer. But no, they actually did like a real thing of this is what you do when you go through cancer. And even how like the little ritual at the end where they go up to the rooftop and they do the thing. And, it's just kind of like, like the kinds of things that people like actually go through when they do the cancer, and they do the treatment, and they have, these things that they do just to like sort of connect them with other people, and all that stuff felt so real. And I like that it was real.
Yeah, and like I think everyone else has touched on this, and it made me think of something, how she had to fight this on her own and how they didn't offer like a cheap way out with some level of technology. Having her conquer this on her own is so much more powerful. If she had been given like a get out of jail free card, that would have cheapened the whole experience. And having her successfully fight it and win is a beacon of hope to people who have cancer today. Like, Lois beat it, you can too. We have faith in you.
That's true. I like I was saying though, like I didn't think of like Kryptonian, because they did pretty much say up front like Kryptonian technology is not gonna. I thought though like the dramatic thing would be like, oh, she can have a miraculous cure, but at a cost of like her morals or whatever, like. And I was worried about that sort of like a thing of, or Clark would have to make a choice of like, will you sacrifice, like to do something evil for Manheim that helps him to save your wife or something along those lines. And I'm, like, and that wouldn't be cheap. It wouldn't be free. But at the same time, it would. It wasn't the direction I would. I like this was so much more powerful going with a real route,
And at the end of the day, Lois defeats a villain that Clark can't. So how does that not make her, frankly, more badass than Superman? And it makes her his equal in so many ways.
Yep,
as she should be.
The whole thing with Clark this season and him being unable to do anything about it, like that hits home for me, just like with the various times Beth has been injured and stuff like that too. I mean, it's certainly not to the degree of Lois, who's going through a true fight for her life.
I'm very clumsy.
Yeah. But like that sort of feeling of I can't make it, like if there was just some way that I could put in some work and make it better, I would do that. But I can't do that because I can't heal someone for them. There's no work that I can do to do that. And like Clark's like, that's like he can fight supervillains all day long, but he can't make Lois better. He can't make her well. And to see him deal with that and to deal with it, but from the standpoint of just worrying about her life, like he gets mad at her again, like he got mad at Jordan, and then he gets mad at Lois because she keeps ditching the thing because she doesn't want to deal with it, right? That's what we didn't talk about. She doesn't want to deal with it, and she's like, I'm just going to do my job because that allows me to like not deal with it. And he's just like so mad about, like she keeps going off and doing, first of all, they're dangerous things that she's doing, but also, that she's avoiding the treatment. And, like I felt so bad for him. And honestly, even with the last two episodes, which I don't really want to talk about too deeply, but the idea that they have sort of reformatted things so that Lex Luthor is Lois's nemesis and not Superman's.
Yes.
I felt like that made a lot more sense to me too, because it always struck me as strange having Lex being Superman's nemesis when Lex is not like a super being of some kind. He's just the second smartest person on the planet.
It's supposed to be brain versus brawn.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like Lex is just so smart that, like it's,
Okay, so you remember the comic panel where Lex says, I'm the smartest man on the planet. Wait, Batman's dead, right? Yes, I'm the smartest man alive. So
Right.
Superman's got Batman on his side. Lex doesn't stand a chance, okay? So having Lex
There's
being
no Batman in this universe. They established that.
That we know of.
Don't kill my joy.
Just an urban myth.
But yes, no, I'm not. I don't want to talk about the last two episodes too deeply. But I'm just saying, though, again, though, it puts Clark in the position of, like it's not directly his story. It's not directly his fight.
Yeah.
And it's something that Lois is dealing with, and he to some degree feels like he's not, like he's sort of adjunct to that, like he's not like able to directly help her, and so it's interesting they're going that route, and I like the fact that it's because it is Superman and Lois. This isn't like
exactly
the new adventures of Superman or something.
Right.
Superman and Lois, that like Lois is allowed to have more of that narrative power, and it's not just her getting pushed off of skyscrapers every episode like previous iterations of Superman shows. Or the Lois tied up on a train track, or any of the other tropish sort of like Lois is always getting into trouble, that darn girl. So but yeah, and Clark having to deal with all that, and so like that's what I liked about this. I liked about it that it wasn't about Superman beating up the bad guys.
Yes.
Until that last episode. But it wasn't about Superman beating up the bad guys. It was about Superman dealing with the emotional ramifications of being a godlike being that is in love with humanity, and but like a human and humanity. So yeah. Ryan, thoughts about Clark and his journey in this season?
I'm going to echo. I agree with a lot of what you said. It honestly, through most of this season, Superman Clark was a supporting character. He was there. He reacted.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, but sorry. Well, you know what? Tell you what, I'll phrase it in terms relative to the past week. Clark was Ken to Lois's Barbie this week, and which, if you've seen the movie, it works.
I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard enough about it. It works.
But no, it strikes me. Yeah, he was a supporting character, but it's like one of the things. I mean, I'm gonna generalize like crazy here and speak for all men and all relationships between men and women. So get ready for that. But like,
brace yourself.
Ryan's white too, everybody. So just so you know.
That's right. Yeah.
And here we go.
We talked about that when we said I sunburned. Nathan.
Right, that's true. That's true.
And also, I'm on a Superman and Lois podcast.
Wearing a Captain America t-shirt.
I mean, that's not legit, right, because Tom was with us with the first two seasons. So
statistically, I don't know. But what I was going to say here is, and like any guy who's in a long-term relationship with a woman, they have to learn eventually the difference between when your partner is venting versus when they want you to actually fix the problem. Because men we want to fix the problem. We want to, like, we've got to do something. And imagine having that desire, but also being able to like frickin' lift tanks, and this is what Clark had to deal with his helplessness and deal with Lois taking the lead and putting, frankly, her needs ahead of his own. And I think it was, while he's always respected Lois, I really felt like this season he was humbled by her and everything he had to do for her, or not do, as the case may be. And he couldn't fix it.
All right, this is going to be a 42 cast rarity. I agree with Ryan. I'm just putting that out there.
I do too.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Put a meter up of all the times that happens.
Isn't this not the first time?
In the corner.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. But yeah, Jess, what do you think about Clark's journey in this season?
I mean, much the same as what has been said. I I mean, I absolutely love Tyler. I think he does an amazing job. And I think the way he's able to portray this character, especially as Clark, like he's a great Superman, don't get me wrong, but he's an amazing Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to bring that sense of like realism and like good humor, not quite campiness, but it's still like, it's just like Clark Kent. Like he really gets that part of the character. And it was great to see. This is going to sound strange to say in a show entitled Superman and Lois, but it was great to just see Clark and how he gets to live his life as being the dad and being a supporting husband while trying to deal with all of this like immense craziness that is happening. Very few times this season, really, until the end, did we see Superman. And so it was just different to see. And I think it was very well done. And I liked being able to see Clark for Clark and him being able to like explore that side of the character as opposed to just like, I'm being Clark to then show up as Superman, like where it's like, I have to be Superman. I've got to save the day. Like he couldn't, there was like literally nothing he could do. I think Ryan said it best. I mean, humbling is the best way to put it. And just having to be someone on the sidelines, watching people go through this. And I know how hard that is. There's nothing you can do.
Couldn't even get her to her appointments.
Also true, but that's more because Lois is so headstrong and completely in denial, which like, I mean, I get it. Like she's throwing herself into her job, but he's on the other side. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is literally putting your life in jeopardy. And it's just so hard. I feel like that would be so incredibly difficult to have to come to terms with. It's like, I literally must do this or I will die. Although at this point in time, I don't feel any different. Like, it's just such a weird disease.
Well, yeah, when you consider the fact that he never gets sick.
Yeah, also that.
And then having like this person that he's absolutely loves, and for her to get sick in the most serious way possible, you know, and so like that sort of dichotomy, and then sort of just realizing that like, you know, she could die, and then him, Mr. Perfect Health, you know, more than perfect health, you know, better than a human, you know, any human, you know, like has to live out a life empty, you know, and who knows how long he's going to live, or, you know, what effects all of that, you know, all that power has on him. And he could live, you know, hundreds of years, you know, like who knows, and without her. And that's like all that stuff of just having to deal with all of that. And it's subtext for a lot of it. I mean, they talk about some of that stuff, you know, a little bit, but, you know, but they're playing those emotions, and they're playing that, you know, through all those scenes, and it's so well done between those two. You know, I know some people who saw her in, I believe, Grimm, which I never watched Grimm, and I know that they say like she was awful in Grimm, and I'm glad that I don't have that baggage, because seeing them in this show, like, you know, like, and this is the first time I've seen either one of them in anything. Like, to me, it's just like these two are perfect. Like, they are perfect in their roles, and they are perfect together. And I really, you know, love watching them.
Yeah. Tyler was.
Those people were wrong. Juliet was great.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it, so I have no horse in this race.
Me either. I knew people in Teen Wolf, but I never actually watched the show. But one of my friends was in it.
I mean, I still remember him from Purgatory with Tom Hanks, so, you know.
Oh, that's right. That was him. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, my God.
Another
he's a
comic
little
book
boy.
adaptation, actually. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Yeah, I looked up Tyler. He's 10 years younger than me, and I'm just like, oh.
Don't you feel
Tyler,
so old
DNA.
now, Ryan, that all the stars in TV and movies are like younger than you, except for the
That's the
undead
worst.
ones like Tom Cruise.
Tyler's playing a character that's quite a bit older than he currently is.
Yeah.
Which is impressive because the man does not have the real world experience that he's actually portraying, which is more impressive.
I mean, so. I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this in any sort of perverse way that y'all are going to take it, but I want him to be my daddy.
I love Tyler. I think he's so great.
I bet a lot of people do, Ryan. I would
guys
not
don't
be surprised to
understand
hear
my-
that statement from other people.
You guys don't
Probably,
understand
yeah.
my experience right now. I didn't hear his laughter over Zoom. I heard it down the hall.
Yeah, Beth, what did you think about Clark this season?
Oh man. So many of my thoughts have already been taken, like how he basically became a supporting role because it was Lois's fight and not his.
Mhm.
I found his dreams in the very beginning to be very potent and a very good window to the inside of his mind, where he was racing to get to her. It took forever to get to her. The building is falling down on her. She's not moving, and he doesn't get there in time. And he has that dream every single night without let up. That's his terror. And he's living it. Only this building is cancer and it's going to crush her. That one sequence spoke volumes. It was so powerful. And I can't even imagine going through what he went through, or any of them in this family. Like even the kids had to deal with this as well. Like when they went to Grandma Krypton, I don't remember her name. Like
Laura.
they went to her behind their backs and said, "Cure Mom," and she's like, "No."
Yeah.
So that just everything. Oh yeah, I lost my words. It's fine.
So one of the surprises that we've had in the last few months was finding out that the show was renewed, but that they are not renewing any of the supporting characters to move on to the next season as part of a cost cutting thing. Because because we have a double problem here. We have a double whammy of Discovery bought Warner Brothers and is trying to cut costs everywhere, and Nexstar bought the CW and is trying to cut costs everywhere. So neither one of the two partners making this show wants to spend the money on it that they used to, but I think they both realize that this, as the third highest rated show on the CW, is a show that, especially since they're in kind of this lame duck season now where James Gunn's content isn't coming out yet, but they want to keep at least something DC related out in media so that there's a little bit of, they're still getting a little bit of, what's the promotion?
Presence.
Yeah, presence,
Yeah.
promotion of their content, their comic content and all that kind of stuff. So I think they both sort of saw this as a much better choice than Gotham Knights as a vehicle for that. Although that show is way cheaper. And it comes out on screen. But yeah, but the supporting cast has been one of the strengths of this show, I think. So I did want to talk. I mean, we can't go over each character individually, but I did want to kind of talk about what you felt about the supporting cast. They did, in fact, for several episodes, remember that Sarah has a sister, which always, makes me happy because they seem to forget about her for long stretches of time.
So weird.
But
So weird.
But yeah, so just talk about the supporting cast. Sam, the Cushings, and John Henry and Nat, all of those characters. And they did leave the door open that maybe, some of them might show up in an episode or two. There's no guarantee that we'll see all of them again in season 4. So just sort of thoughts on what you felt about them this season, and getting into also like, what do you feel about this decision? Do you feel like it'll be a real detriment to the show? What are kind of your thoughts that way? So that's kind of a lot, but Jess, since you have a whole show devoted to talking about the show, I'm sure you've already had thoughts about this. So let's start off with you.
Since I've already talked about this, yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if I say the same things twice. I think that's what's more interesting. But I thought it was an odd decision in that the supporting cast has been pretty integral to the storylines. But I mean, given the real world circumstances, it's kind of like, it is what it is, and we're going to move on. We've got the core family dynamic, and we're going to keep that as much as possible. So originally, our speculation was that the Kints would find themselves moving to Metropolis as a way to remove them from Smallville, because all of this news came out before the finale aired, even though the finale had been in the can for like a year almost before it aired. And so that was just kind of like our speculation, which, that didn't really happen. So I think it'll be difficult for them to work around a supporting cast that has been so integrated into the story while they remain in Smallville. Now, they can still have the opportunity to make appearances, but none of them are regulars. And one actor has already said flat out that he is not coming back. Although fortunately, it's very easy to wrap up his storyline because they can just say that they killed him. So I don't know if you want me to say who it is or if you guys know.
Yeah, you can say who it is.
But the man, he portrays Sam Lane. I forget the name of the actor. He said actually his wife quoted for him that he's not returning, which is kind of odd. But yeah, so
well, I will say this. They haven't finished scripts for the season yet, so that means they haven't even asked anyone to be back. So if it's hard times and they need money and they say, hey, we can put you in episode 5 of season 4, do you want to come and do it? He might change his mind. So I'm just putting that out there. True. That sometimes people posture like that, but then when the money comes, they cave. So yeah. But
that's true. Yeah. If there's nothing else that he can get as a result of everything that's going on in the real world again. I think the storyline I'm most disappointed that I would have wanted to see fleshed out was Nat and John Henry. I really wanted to see them in Metropolis. I wanted to see Steelworks. I'm even slightly curious how they're going to handle Mateo. I wouldn't have minded a cameo, but I think moving forward, that's just going to be completely axed because, I mean, what are you going to do with that? Like, they're just going to totally write that off. Everything's going to be about the Kents and Lex. Probably Lana will make some appearances here and there because she's the most central figure as the mayor. And I love that actress. So,
have you read something where they've said that they're definitely not moving out of Smallville in season 4?
No, I have not.
Because they could still do the
that.
move to Metropolis thing and like in the first episode of season 4.
Absolutely. They could. Which, yeah, and if they did that, in my opinion, it would be easier to cut everything with the Cushings because of the whole drama with Chrissy and Kyle. You can just say that Lois either is like a silent partner or whatever in the Gazette, or she sells her half of the company, like whatever it is. I feel like that's an easier fix to get rid of all of that baggage, especially with like the reveal with Chrissy and Kyle that I was not expecting. I don't care. I don't need that storyline. I mean, like, it's fine if they want to do like a line drop someplace or a flash forward at the very end so they can like quote wrap it up, like whatever.
I don't mind what they've done with Kyle, but it seems like the most unnecessary thing they've done for the last 2 seasons is like they took him from the deadbeat drunk to he's such an upstanding, wonderful. Like when Clark reveals to him that he's Superman, I'm like, you don't tell the town drunk that you're Superman,
right?
Like you could at least believe like Lana. I know Lana. Lana's a really upstanding person. I can trust her with this secret. You told the town drunk. I thought for sure that
dropping it.
One of the storylines was going to be like Kyle, like because of everything's going on, he goes back to drinking and he gives it away. Lex finds out that Clark is Superman because of something Kyle says to someone, and it gets back to Lex or something like that. And I thought that was going to be why Lex comes, after them both is and I was like, oh god, that's going to be like there's a Daredevil storyline in the comics that's kind of like that, and I thought that that's where we were going, and thankfully we didn't go there. But again, yeah, I don't understand why the writers just decided that they fell in love with Kyle. I don't mind him. I just don't understand why they felt the need to reform his character, but yet still have him go through a divorce. It seems like if you're going to reform the character, it would have been so that he could be like the nice, upstanding father and be like a partner for Lana. But then it was like they did that, then also did the divorce thing, and it was just kind of I don't know what they were doing.
There was a lot going on with that. So I think that's the easiest baggage to cut, especially since like at the end of the season, Jordan and Sarah are basically like, they're good, but they're not on like speaking terms. They're not really on very friendly terms. So they're kind of the easiest to shove to the side. If they do move them to Metropolis and they incorporate a little bit of the Nat John Henry stuff, I would be very happy with that because I really wanted to see the whole like Steelworks thing and like them getting their own superhero thing going because I just think that's super cool. But did I cover all the side characters? I think I did.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And that's Comprehensive. Beth,
Sorry.
what do you think about what's going on with the side characters, and also what do you think about them dropping them for the following season? Oh, I will also note it's going to be 10 episodes instead of 13, so like
Yeah, it's only 10.
a little bit of tightening needs to happen anyway.
Yeah, so I hadn't heard the 10 episode. Well, I knew the 10 episode thing, but I didn't know that they were dropping a lot of people. So that's that base. I figured that you would have mentioned this already, Nathan, but I'm just going to steal your thunder and say that at some point in Smallville, someone put something in the water and everyone.
I was going to get there when it was my turn to talk about this. That yes, that was the horniest episode of like any show that I have ever seen. Like it was like an anime con or something. Like that was crazy. Like I don't know what that was, but like suddenly everybody was just like getting laid or trying to get laid, and I was just like, what was that?
Yeah, that wraps up a whole lot of characters right there, just on its own. So I'll leave it there.
You think Sam can just be wrapped up with he tried to get laid and she betrayed him? Like. Oh no, I don't know if that wraps him up.
I mean, as soon as I saw her, I was like, I don't trust this woman. And here we go. She's dragging him down the dark alley. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen.
I mean, if he doesn't come back, they just need to murder him. That's an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather unfortunate. I like Sam.
I know.
He's complicated, but I like him.
Well, I like the fact that he was trying to bond with Nat. Like,
yes.
which is an interesting choice because, like, for him, that's not. Like she was not his granddaughter, you know, in the sense of
but biologically, she still kind of is.
Well, no.
Kinda, yeah.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, like for his lived experiences, this is some person that just appeared a year ago. He didn't have the experience of seeing her when she was newborn, and for her growing up and being raised by his daughter, you know, and all of that would normally connect two people together. But I thought it was interesting that he tried to do the work of establishing something with her. Which is a lot easier for her than establishing something with Lois, because for Lois, you know, that connection to a mother is so strong that to have someone that's like her mom but isn't her mom is hard for, you know, they talked about that last season, which I thought was one of the cool real type things when we're talking about a weird science fiction concept of how a person would react to that. But this, because, you know, grandpa, he wasn't necessarily around all the time, but she still had a connection to him. So having this somebody who's like grandpa, but isn't quite grandpa, it was a little easier for her to set that connection with. And I can also understand her when she thinks that, oh, maybe he's just interested in her because she's smart or whatever, like, and like he feels like he can use her, why that upset her. But that was really genuine from him, that he wanted to connect with her. And frankly, I think that he likes John Henry better than Clark anyway. So it's like, I'll just sort of believe you're my granddaughter.
That's fine.
You're the son I would have approved. You're the son-in-law I would have approved of.
Oh my God. Man, that guy's got some baggage. One thing I did want to mention, when Mr. Cushing showed up at the house and was accusing Jonathan of being the superpowered kid, the way that Clark acted in that situation was just like really powerful. He stopped him with a finger in his chest. And he needed to go and help Lois. She was in danger and he needed to go, but he couldn't because he had to, you know, de-escalate the situation before he could. And the way that he had to go about that was just, you got to do what you got to do, but at the same time, back off, get off my lawn.
Papa Bear Clark was present quite a bit this season. Like, it almost felt like, because he did feel so like impotent with helping Lois, that it was like any time that he could just use the muscles, he was just kind of like, because like the whole thing with Lex too, like he's just like, leave now, you know, like.
Oh, and like Candace's dad too. When Candace's dad pulled the gun on Lois, he took care of business.
Mm-hmm.
That's just so great.
Yep. Is that? Did you want to say anything else?
No, I'm fairly simple-minded at the moment. I'm sorry.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I will be very disappointed if we don't see any of these characters again. I'm really hoping, again, because they have been so so integral to the series. John Henry, especially, I think Wole Parks, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name, like has been a phenomenal actor and, you know, a phenomenal part of this series. And even when you saw him sort of going down the wrong path this season, you know, getting a little too angry and letting that, you know, sort of cloud his better judgment, you understood where he was coming from, and the actor played it like totally believably as to, you know, he's worried about his daughter, he's worried about his sister, even though it isn't the sister from his world, but he's still worried about, you know, these connections that he has, and, you know, he overreacts with some of these things. But that makes sense. He's lost everyone he knew other than his daughter. Like, they're all gone. So he's going to hold on to anything he feels like is a connection, and he's going to be super overprotective of that. And so, much like Jess, I think if there's any one character that I want to, you know, like them to like have guest star in the next season, it would be John Henry, you know, showing up in several of the episodes. You know, I would not mind, you know, to have Lana or Sam or any of them. I mean, Sam makes a lot of sense, you know, because, you know, he's Lois's dad. Heck, they could throw Lucy into an episode and that would be fine too. Although she hasn't been around this season. But, you know, those familial connections obviously make a lot of sense. Yeah, if they're if emo Jordan with Sarah, you know, Sarah can go by the wayside, Kyle can go by the wayside. I do like Chrissy. I mean, she's not super important. If they can work Chrissy into an episode or two, I would not mind.
She is very cute. That character is very cute.
Yeah, no, I think that she's cute, and that her relationship with Lois is fine. Like, the Kyle thing was kind of like, eh.
Yes.
It felt very much like they're still trying to keep Kyle in the limelight, and it's just like, well, here's a character we can pair him up with. And it's just kind of like, okay.
I mean, who hooks up at a birthday party? Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I just found it weird that, like, I don't know, I just feel like the whole divorce and then him getting with Chrissy, like the whole thing seems to be been weird, like all of it, like how it flowed and everything, and yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, kind of quick.
Well,
it was, but it wasn't. Remember, there were months of time jumps. Like, all between in the middle of the season, there is a month at least between almost every episode. Like, not in real time, but like of episode time.
Well, Lana was the one that wanted to divorce him, and I also felt like the whole thing of her like being annoyed that like they're like hooking up, and it's just like, I you're the one who wanted him out. Like, I got nothing. Like, and besides, you were like from like the first episode of the season, she's staring at John Henry like panting, you know, and it's just like, I knew where that was going.
Come here, you big Hershey bar.
It's kind of a small incestuous town. Everyone's dated everyone.
I'm worried about security. Could you come over and inspect things over here, Mr. Irons? You know.
To be fair, he made up the excuse. Not her. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I could tell. From the moment he's in her house, like doing the security system, it was just like they're hooking up, and so it's just waiting for that to actually happen. So. But yeah, like, and so like I expect them to move next season. I think that's the only, like, they could, if they stayed in Smallville but somehow never ran into any of the characters they've already established, would just seem really weird. Right. I almost think that maybe it might not even be they moved to Metropolis. It might be they're like on the run from Lex or something, like next season. Or maybe
they go to the moon.
Or maybe just everything just takes place in Metropolis because that's where Lex is.
Yeah.
And so if we see them in Smallville, we're really only seeing them in their house, but most of the action, quote unquote, is taking place in Metropolis. I don't know, I'm spitballing here.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see how they make it work, but it is the biggest fear I have about season 4 is losing the supporting cast, because
me too.
So much of the charm of the show comes from all these relationships, and while I feel like the family is core to, is the core of the show, by cutting out all those other connections, I don't know that the show will be anywhere near as good as it has been.
It's a way of isolating them too, because like if you think back to COVID, when everyone was living in their house and only their house and not going out, not seeing anybody, things were rough because you didn't have the relationships with people around you. And that's what they're going to try to do here. And that's I don't think that's going to work well.
So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what
Unless
they
they
do
go to
with
the
this.
moon. I mean,
All right, we're gonna get to that in just a minute, but first I want to talk about Manheim and his family. Because they dominate, most of the season as the antagonists. I'm not gonna call them villains per se. They definitely try to present them in as positive a light as they could while still having them be the antagonists who did a lot of bad stuff. So yeah, Ryan, what were your thoughts about Manheim and his family in this?
Well, I love Chad Coleman. Yeah, I think that's his name. On anything. And when I saw he was going to be in this, my first thought was, oh, he was an Arrow. So is he going to be playing the same character? And no, obviously not. But,
Here I was thinking of the Orville.
Yeah, Clyden and the Orville. He's been in The Walking Dead. He gets around. The Wire. I mean, the guy works.
A lot.
He was in The Expanse.
Yeah, The Expanse.
Oh,
yeah. So
God.
He works, and he's frankly a joy to watch. And I feel like because of his talent, he brought something to the character, which took it from a two-dimensional portrayal to frankly speaking, not a character that you're rooting for. You're not, but a character you understand.
Yes.
His love for his wife, and to a lesser degree his son, comes through, and you realize like I think he even says to Clark, to Superman at one point in time, like, what wouldn't you do? What wouldn't you do to save the person you love?
Mm-hmm.
And because like you realize that you mentioned before, you thought they were going to do a deal with the devil situation with Superman, and if they had, Clark would take it. He would have to save Lois. And that's Bruno Manheim was a villain to begin with, and his wife was a villain to begin with. But the shared struggle with cancer that they share with Lois and Clark, it honestly binds them together in a way that they each understand each other, to the extent where at one point in time, Clark and Lois are like literally fighting to get Manheim and his son a chance to see their wife and mother before she passes. And it's like, yes, get them in there. And they're villains, they're gonna do something stupid, but that was probably the only time where the show really slipped into comic book superhero tropishness in that arena with them. But all in all, the portrayal was just, I felt for them, and I wasn't rooting for them, but I felt for them. And that's the hallmark of a great character.
Yeah, the one thing that annoyed me, and they did the same thing in the last season of Supergirl, was this sort of notion that Superman wouldn't save people in the underprivileged part of town. Like he says that to him at one point, like, oh yeah, you saved people in the rich part of town. And I'm like, seriously, I don't buy that for a second, that Superman like worries about where the screams are coming from and doesn't save people in the projects too. Like I struggled with that, but I did like the fact though that, like he, as a quote unquote villain though, was also trying to help like an underprivileged community. Like I did like that, as like that was part of this thing of like the reason he became like an unscrupulous person was to try to level like what he felt was an unfair playing field and get things good for like his people, basically the people that lived in that community. And so I felt like that adds another dimension to the character. Absolutely. That it's not just about, well, I'm just trying to amass wealth and power with no just for the purpose of my own, like satiating my own wants and desires. There was more that he was trying to do. He was trying to, help out a community. But I always hate it when they did the same thing with Supergirl, where suddenly they decided to have a very special episode of Supergirl talking about like, racism. And then it was like, oh, well, like Kara, you don't help people when they don't look like you. And it was just like, no. Okay, you should be going with this.
If you really want to think about it, I'm going to say there's a certain amount of truth to that, but it's only a numbers game, right? Like, obviously, Superman's not going to hit the higher crime areas because there's only so many seconds in the day and he's got to spend time being Clark. So, he's going to miss stuff, and the stuff he's going to miss is in the higher crime area because there's just where there's more of it. And he might be there to like stave buildings collapsing, but I guess there's just better code enforcement in Metropolis proper, so
and he's a global hero. He's listening for the bigger picture. He's not laser focused on one area like Bruno is. So, I mean, I do think you have to take that into consideration. I mean, it's difficult, but if he was literally saving every single person all of the time from every single minor thing, the man would never sleep. I guess you can argue whether or not he really needs sleep. I don't know. Does Superman need sleep?
Yeah, but my issue is where I'm pretty sure Manheim uses the word never. And I'm like, seriously, never? Like, he never ventured into that neighborhood to like save anyone. Like,
no, I agree with you. I find that very hard to believe.
Like, for like major stuff. But you know what? I mean, I'm willing to bet, like, if you actually looked at it, just because of proximity, I'll bet you crime around when Superman and when Clark and Lois lived in Metropolis, I'm betting you crime around the Daily Planet building was zero.
Yeah, that's
like 10
true.
blocks in either direction. It's just like a crime-free zone.
Exactly. You couldn't steal a pack of chewing gum in that area.
Somebody taps you on the shoulder, you just put the chewing gum in your pocket and are walking out, and there's Superman right there. I heard you do that. Put it back.
Now we're gonna have a talk, son.
Right. Oh man.
And that's how Jimmy Olsen became a member of the Daily Planet.
Oh God.
Okay. Yeah, so Jess, what do you think about Manheim and his family?
Oh, this was a complicated, complex story. I mean, I really liked it. The acting of all of them was phenomenal. And I liked the layers that are brought to it because they try to set up Bruno as, like this like villainous mastermind, and then they are also trying to do the same thing with Pia's alter ego. We don't get that reveal, even her name, for the longest time. I mean, I think it's halfway through the season before we hear her name, because once we hear her name, we can put it together with who. I mean, they don't officially ever name like Onomatopoeia, but everybody knows like that's who she's supposed to be. And so I like that they had like all of this kind of dichotomy, and that because the way they wove the story and the reveals together, that they humanized everyone. Like they tried to build Bruno up as this villain while giving us Pia's entire storyline, and then they flipped the script where we got to see the more villainous side of her while we got to see the more human side of Bruno, and the fact that he's just trying to save his wife. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, poor Mateo is caught in the middle of all of it, which, for the record, I was skeptical of through most of the season. I was like, how does this kid have no idea what's going on? Turns out, apparently, supervillains can also be decent parents. Who knew? So they're
I think they determinedly tried to hide it from their son, like, for his whole life. And so that was the thing of, he knew his parents were business people. So, I mean, like they're gone for long periods of time, doing late night deals and stuff. Like, that probably didn't seem all that weird to him. Like, he didn't know that any of that was nefarious. It was just like, business.
Yeah, but at some point in time, if you're rich and you live in a penthouse and your parents are either in sanitation or imports exports, you gotta know.
What do you do, Dad? Imports exports.
Yeah.
The most sinister business.
Okay. But yeah, no, I thought they did a really great job, and it did take up like the bulk of the season, which kind of made sense. I thought it was a well done storyline. I liked the way it all wove itself together in the end.
And Beth,
I have mixed feelings, but a lot of it really is just about humanizing the quote unquote villain of anything. I mean, I definitely aspire to write any villainous character that you could at least understand where they're coming from. That is a skill I have not developed, and I hope one day to have it, because this show nails that. They do it consistently. Even when they introduced Lex, they gave him a reason for being the way he is, because really everyone has a reason for being the way they are. And this show finds that way, and it's not just evil for the sake of evil, because there's a very, very, very small percentage of humanity is even remotely like that. And even if they are, there's a reason for it.
All right. Well, yeah, I talked about Bruno. I've never heard of onomatopoeia before. Watching this show, I did have weird thoughts about that mask, and what it looks
Terrifying.
like. I'm sorry, what?
It was terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
It was very weird and strangely organic in texture, and I still thought they were going to reveal that it's alien technology, and I'm surprised that they didn't go there, because I'm like, where did that even come from? I don't know, but
How is it not Kryptonian?
Yeah. But
Everything else
Might
is.
be.
But yeah, I liked, we've already talked about the cancer bonding and all of that, and I felt like the sort of mirroring, Jess talked about, between Lois and Clark and Bruno and, is it Priya or Pia?
Yeah.
Yeah. The two pairs of them was really well done. I didn't really care about Mateo and his relationship with Nat. I know that we had a lot of mileage from that, and it got John Henry riled up, and we got to see him being
fun.
a shotgun dad, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. The kid relationships matter the least to me about this show. It's only the fact that it's real or makes it feel real and authentic that kids that age would be pairing up with people and whatnot. But I don't even know that I needed John Henry to be like, you better have good, intentions towards my daughter, kind of thing. I don't know that I needed that from John Henry. It's a trope. It's done a lot, all right, whatever. But yeah, the two parents I felt were excellent, and I felt they were good foils. And that brings us to Lex and Doomsday. So I'm gonna start with a little preamble here. First of all, I remember back when season 2 started, and everybody was like, "Oh, Doomsday," because they there was the something punching something underground, and everybody was like, "They're gonna do Doomsday, they're gonna do Doomsday," and then it turned out to be Bizarro, and I was like, "Brilliant, brilliant, thank you." Doomsday is something this show could not handle. Bizarro, on the other hand, is opens up interesting possibilities. So what did they do? They decided to turn Bizarro into Doomsday.
I thought it was poetic, for the record.
All right, well, I mean, whatever. I mean, he was a strange zombie version of Bizarro. I'm just glad that it didn't the people he bit didn't turn into I was like, oh god, are they gonna do a zombie storyline where he bites people and then they turn into zombies? But the guy he bit the ear off of didn't turn into a zombie, so I guess we're okay. I also don't get.
He had shades of Doomsday in his look, the spikes and the craziness.
Well, that was only after he died. Repeat, the more he died, the more he got turned into that look started to. But that was the thing. I didn't get why Bizarro was letting Lex do this, and why he wanted to defeat Superman. I don't get. There didn't seem to be the motivation for the character to do this and to accept it and be fine with it. And it seemed really weird to me when we got there, okay, they've transformed him into Doomsday, of why this is what he sort of just allowed to happen to him. Because he could have resisted. He could have stopped Lex very easily. And he didn't. I am not a fan of this version of Lex. We've seen half a dozen versions of Lex Luthor in the last 10 years. And this is probably... I'm not even sure I like it better than the Jesse Eisenberg one, frankly. Bland, really bland, thug, was what I got from him. And when you sort of compare that to the performance of to John Cryer, who was so engaging and charismatic, it was just okay, so he's a thug version of Luthor that apparently is clever because of what he's able to pull off in jail, but doesn't seem particularly bright. And so the whole idea of Lex being the super genius versus Superman, the super strong guy, like kind of goes by the wayside. And I just like, I don't know, those last two episodes I am incredibly disappointed with. They, like I thought, even with the bigger budget they've had in the series now, they did not pull off Doomsday well. It looked really awful in my opinion, and then they ended on a cliffhanger, and I was just kind of like, I don't feel engaged by this. I wish the Bruno Manheim story had lasted 2 more episodes, and we had done something more with that, or with some of the supporting cast, or something. So I'm front loading this. I did not like the last 2 episodes. I think they jumped not one shark but a dozen. And this is the other thing that has me a little bit worried about season 4. Although they're definitely gonna have to scale back their cost expectations. Yeah, Beth, what did you think about the last 2 episodes? Because I don't think we really talked about it that deeply after we watched them.
Yeah, fine. I guess they're not going to the moon. Budgetary restraints and all that. Yeah, the whole transformation from Bizarro to Doomsday, I also felt was really weird. I didn't buy it at all, and as soon as I saw this version of Lex in the previews, I went, I don't buy it. No.
But he's tough because he walked to Smallville.
That's just a big.
We should respect
complex,
him now.
All right. No, I really wish there was like a universal undo button, and this is one of those times I would push that button.
Okay.
And I wouldn't push it often, but this is when I do.
I'm curious because we watched Titans at the same time, and they also had a Lex Luthor very briefly in Titans, who was also underwhelmed me. What do you think about the Titans Lex Luthor versus the one we got in Superman and Lois?
The one from Titans, Snake and all.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, I would agree. I think he edges out this one, although I don't think they're far apart, because he also sort of struck me as, not particularly, like, his presence wasn't particularly, strong.
Yeah, because that guy actually had layers on Titan. You expect Lex Luthor to have more layers than an onion and therefore Shrek. But this guy, like, there was no layers whatsoever. He was a grain of sand, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
All we got.
All right. So yeah, Jess, what did you think about Lex and Doomsday in these last 2 episodes?
I think there's more to Lex than meets the eye. I personally thought that he was a bit more like chilling and meant to be like cold and calculating. I didn't mind this version of him at all. I go on the record all the time. I don't like Supergirl. I didn't like Supergirl at all. I thought it was too campy, and I didn't watch it because I don't like the main actress. I don't at all.
That's fine. I'm just saying they had a better Lex Luthor.
A lot of people say that. The few experiences I had with him as Lex, I felt like he was very over the top. But anyway.
Okay, this guy literally showed up at Lois's house and said, "You need to stop writing because I said so."
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, there was no plan, there was no anything. Like, it was just like, I'm mad because you put me in jail, and I'm gonna deadpan just tell you better stop writing. Like, that's what he did. Like, there's no menace to that. There's no, like, there was no emotion. It was like it was like the most, I don't know. I was just like, this guy, like he's both stupid and he's just not intimidating. So I don't know. I just
To each their own.
I felt like he was intimidating, but for the wrong reasons.
Oh, what's that?
As a physical presence, if he knocks on my door and tells me to do something, or he's going to come back and kill my whole family,
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, again, Lex Luthor as a physical presence is kind of a problem because
exactly,
Superman is way more of a physical presence. So it's just kind of like, I don't know. I just, Ryan, what do you think?
I think I'm kind of somewhere in the middle here because I do feel like it was a setup for next season. So it's like, hey, they've done 3 phenomenal seasons so far. I'm willing to kind of give them a little bit of room here to see what they're going to do. The thing about Lex Luthor is he comes in every shape and size, basically. Yes, you've got the President Luthor, but you've also got the real estate scam artist Luthor. And, you've got the living underground mobster gangster Luthor. Every version of Superman and Lois has had a slightly different iteration of Lex Luthor, and this is kind of a different one. So far, it looks like they're going he was the kingpin of the underworld of Metropolis, not the political tech guy, and I'm fine with that. I mean, that can play out. We'll see how it goes. I felt like his walk to Smallville actually, it reminded me of
Forrest Gump.
No, Cape Fear. I don't know if you ever seen.
I was like Forrest Gump. Like,
no, entirely different
I
vibe.
like, why are we doing the Forrest Gump thing for Lex Luthor? Like,
it was a storm is coming to Smallville.
It's supposed to be building anticipation.
Yes, exactly. Whether it hit or not, you can argue.
I mean, yeah, I was expecting a lot more once
Yeah.
he got there, like than what we got, and.
Just the fact that he shows up there, like he's been in jail for 20 years and he knows where they live. Come on, that is not chilling to you?
You mentioned Kingpin, but like they never once said that he was part of any kind of crime, anything. Like, I don't know.
Did.
Like,
Hold on. Because that's how he went to jail. Because he was in charge of that the Glades. I can't remember what it was called. That neighborhood of Metropolis, along with all of Metropolis, and Bruno and his wife framed him so that they could take control of it. But prior to that, he was in charge of that territory, along with all of the city.
I thought they killed the one who already was in charge.
I don't believe that was. I think you're imputing things to things that were said that might have been intentional, but were never said outright. All we know is that he was framed for a crime he didn't commit, and apparently had a wife and a daughter. Those are the things we know about him.
At least no.
And people said he's really scary. But we're told that instead of actually seeing it. Like, that's the part that I have a problem with.
We've had him on screen.
They're telling instead of showing.
I disagree. Well,
I agree. I disagree. I'm with Ryan.
Yeah, they spent the whole season foreshadowing him, leading up to him.
Right. So they told us that he was scary. Yes.
Right. Let me hold on a second. I'm getting there. But you see, the reason I agree with you, Lex Luthor next to Superman is not physically intimidating. That's why John Cryer works, because it's like, he's never going to win a physical fight against Superman. This guy, the mistake they made with this was he showed up to give Lois a warning. Like, here's this Luthor, actually has layers, because he knows that Lois believed what she wrote. And so he's giving her a chance. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to destroy you if I never have to see you or hear from you or read you ever again. This is your chance. Disappear, live, be happy, because I know you were honest enough to exonerate me once you found out the truth. So that's his code. He's giving Lois a chance to quote unquote do the right thing as far as he sees it. But the intimidation factor, the scary factor, it doesn't work here because Clark is there, and we know Clark is freaking Superman. But if they'd shot that entire scene with that actor who plays Lex, who is a physically imposing character, coming up the porch to Lois, and she wasn't there, and she's still in recovery, and she's frail, and he's looming over her, it would have been chilling as can be. It would have been scary. It would have been like, what's he gonna do?
It would have been chilling if it wasn't a warning, and if he was like, I'm going to kill you right now. But the warning was the part that made him dumb. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
You don't know that it's going to be a warning.
Idiot. Like, and he's not. And he has the presence of Ben Stein. Like,
no,
he's so deadpan. Like, it's like there was no anger. There was no towards the end, I think he got a little angry, but it was like he was speaking very flatly. You will stop writing articles.
It was not that monotone and robotic.
And I will just have this blank stare and blank face.
Nothing like that.
It was not
towards
that
the end. He did get
robotic.
some emotion and got angry. Like, I remember, he got frustrated and a little angry, but he's
trying to keep it under wraps. He's trying to remain calm and collected, and then he can't.
The idea there is you wouldn't like to see him when he's angry.
There we go. He's Hulk.
Sure.
We're gonna agree to disagree.
Yeah, we are.
He's awful. is awful.
Disagree.
He's a
Disagree.
thug.
But
Like, and so that's the thing. Like, Lex is a thug is not a huge threat.
he's a gangster. He's a mobster. But we've seen this Lex before too. I mean, we've seen this iterations of that before. I don't know. I just don't know how you can say Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor is you know what I mean? Lex Luthor at the end of the day is a con man.
Because he's a guy that uses proxies. So that's the thing. That's supposed to be a smarter. Now, whether or not you agree with Gene Hackman's performance or whatever, the idea is Lex is a smart guy that uses proxies to do his work for him. And that's the usual, 90% of Lexes, that's like what they do. And I get they were trying to do something different here, but I think Lex is a thug, like a guy who's not particularly bright, and who's all about just anger and intimidation with big muscles.
Why do you say he's not bright? You've seen him.
What do we see that's smart? Him coming up to the porch and telling Lois to stop is not bright.
Yes, it's extremely bright. He's giving her a warning. I mean, he has no clue. He doesn't know Clark is Superman.
You put maximum force at the weakest point before people know it. That is smart. Not give them a warning. That is never smart.
Nathan has a literal book about how to be a supervillain. He knows this stuff.
You have to
like if he had come and blew up their house and then drove off, that would have been okay. Because he doesn't know Clark is Superman.
But don't you see what he's doing? Did you ever? I'm totally jumping cinematic universes now, but the leader of the Hand, I can't remember his name, but he killed Mariko, and Wolverine threatened he was going to come back every year and chop off another piece of this guy, and that's what he did. He'd go back every year with his claws and cut off an ear, cut off a finger, or whatever of the guy who killed Mariko. And that's what Luthor is doing right here. He's putting the fear of Luthor into Lois. You have to come at this from the fact that he assumes Lois is a human, that Clark is a human. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know that they're a super family. And so we know, I mean, what's the point? Oh, why warn? Why not just attack? He's Lex Luthor. They already know he's the bad guy. They already know he's the villain. They already know what he can do. And so, of course, just the very fact of his existence is threat enough. Now you've got it hanging over their head. When's he going to attack? What's he going to do? What's his plan? And that's unsettling.
Okay.
It's intimidation.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the whole idea of I'll be good with you if you stop writing was pretty dumb also. If you hate this woman and blame
she's
her,
never gonna back
then
down,
it doesn't matter if you stop writing. I don't know, the whole, it just felt weird on the face of it. And I get what you're trying to say, he has some sort of code, but I mean, that doesn't really come off that strongly. So I get you're trying to reconcile
here's the thing.
With something rational.
He knows that Lois didn't frame him. Lois reported it, but she didn't frame him. And Lois is the reason he got out. So he had to give her a chance. It's this is your chance, your one and only chance. Now, to totally change the topic, Lois was stupid to exonerate him. Yeah, he was innocent of that, but he's not innocent, So I'm with Pia on this. There was absolutely no reason to exonerate Lex Luthor for this crime when we know pretty much 100% certainty that he's guilty of more than enough crimes.
I disagree with you on this one, but
what?
but no, that's the thing. There is no 100% certainty. The one thing that they thought was 100% certain wasn't correct. So of course,
that's the one thing they had
him.
Proof of. That's the one thing they had proof of. But you're gonna tell me Superman hasn't seen stuff or heard stuff that he just can't prove?
I mean, you're imputing
Lois
things
too.
that the script does not, nothing in the story actually said outright that there was any proof anywhere. It's just they've heard that Lex is this really bad guy that's done really bad things.
You're right. There's
and
no
so
proof
they're 90% sure, but I mean, that's the reason why the laws are the way they are, is we don't go with 90%, we go with 100%, we go with proof, So
right.
I do agree with Lois on this. Because what she thought wasn't correct. It was a lie. And so, and she didn't know that, but that's what she put out there. So I agree with her, rescinding that. Now, obviously, once he threatens her life, then there's your proof, but.
And there's the problem.
But to his actions with Doomsday, about the last two episodes as a whole, I kind of, it felt like they just wanted to do Doomsday, and they found the least stretch. Like we're gonna have to stretch this, but this is the smallest stretch that we can make and get Doomsday here. And to that extent, I thought, okay, that's kind of clever. Okay, maybe like they've revived Bizarro. Maybe he's not like all there, so that's why his universe is dead. He's been dead. Maybe he's seen stuff. He's been on the other side. We don't know. And so I can kind of buy the whole, okay, I'll point me in the direction and I will kill. And so. To give Lex credit, he spent a month or however long making Lois and Clark, by the way, fearful and dreading what's going to happen, spending that time killing Bizarro again. Killing Bizarro again and again and again until he did become Doomsday. And that does take a certain level of intelligence, and it did create a certain level of suspense. And let's not forget, at the end of the series, Bizarro, Doomsday, Doomsday basically wins. He kicks Superman's butt, and had the series ended right there, it would have ended with Superman losing, and which I guess means Lex won.
I mean,
it can't be that dumb.
No, it's them about to punch each other is how it ended. It did not end with Doomsday like with a defeated Superman. So
Doomsday kicked his butt.
Yeah, I thought that's where they were going to end it, and that they were going to launch into the Death of Superman storyline, which they still might do. But if they do that, they're gonna have to kill him in the first episode.
I don't believe they're going to do it just because he's one of the 4 cast members they actually have. I mean, 5 technically, because Lex is going to be a regular next season also. But like, he's one of the 4 main characters that they have, and so it's like you kill him off and then like replace him with like these copies, and I don't know. I don't think they would do that.
My prediction, if we're going to go ahead and make them right now, is that Clark wins, but he becomes powerless. He becomes human in the process. And so then you've got Clark having to be a human living with a superpowered son that he really can't control. And, but he can still kind of train him a little bit. And then also that puts him on equal footing with Lex.
I think he's going to win, but Doomsday is not going to be dead. And they're going to realize that they're not safe anywhere, and they're going to be on the run, basically, like for the season. Like that they're going to be like, and that's one of the ways they're going to keep them from having a supporting cast is that they're going to be moving from episode to episode. So that's my suspicion.
I feel the Metropolis one is probably more likely.
It could be. I mean, like, I would not put money on it not being Metropolis. I just think that, like, it makes more sense for them to, like, keep moving if they're really afraid, So, well, we'll see. Jess, any predictions for season 4? Anything you want to see?
I don't know. Like, I mean, after setting all of this up and going through the trouble of, fulfilling their Doomsday prophecy and finally giving us a Doomsday. I mean, that's always a Death of Superman storyline. So like, I think I'm going to feel bothered if they have to pivot away from that. Just because I feel like it cheapens what they're trying to go for with like introducing Doomsday in the first place and showing him almost, killing Clark, almost killing him, in the finale before he was able to kind of like rebound. So I'm like, like how is round 2 really going to go? So I don't know. I've got kind of like mixed feelings on that. I don't really have a good sense of where they're going with season 4 after the strike, the way that they ended on a cliffhanger, that they kind of walked back, Doomsday killing Superman a little bit. So I don't know. I don't have any good predictions. The scaled down cast does worry me a little bit. I'm glad that they didn't end the series on that massive cliffhanger, because that would have made me inordinately angry. But because of all of the real world circumstances that I know are playing into the show, I'm having a hard time speculating like where they're really actually going to go with it.
Yeah, I will say that when they made their cliffhanger, they did not know that they were going to have no supporting cast next season. So they may have planned on doing a Death of Superman kind of thing. And then like now I just don't see with them like going like, so we're going to write Tyler out for like 8 of the 10 episodes of the season to have him come back at the very end or whatever. Like when he's one of their few people that they have coming back. So
no, I agree. And so now I'm like, well, how are they going to handle this cliffhanger? And it's not going to go the way I guess I thought it was going to go, or maybe it was never going to go that way, which is the whole point that they had, round 2 and took him to the moon or whatever.
Mm.
He's going to be able to defeat him and send him off into space and do that part of the storyline and get rid of Doomsday that way. That would be very true to the comics, minus Clark dying first.
Right. Beth, do you have anything you want to see out of the 4th season?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore at this point. I still don't understand how Bizarro became Doomsday in the first place. So, in a world where that can happen,
and how did Lex know that by repeatedly killing him, he would turn into that?
In any world where that happens, I'm at a loss, and I don't want to live on that planet. So I'm just gonna sit back and wait because I have no clue.
Okay.
I got nothing.
I think the way I took it, and granted, you have to read a lot between the lines here, but
You're good at
Manheim
that.
was using, that's the only way to make some of this stuff work, I can make the 2009 Star Trek work. But the Bruno was using Bizarro's corpse to defeat cancer, right? So he was already kind of manipulating it and finding a way for it to beat death. And so it just, like cancer, I mean, maybe he introduced cancer into Bizarro's body, and it just, now the cells are just propagating and it won't be killed. This Doomsday is a cancer that you can't kill. Every time you try and kill it, it just comes back stronger and the cancer grows and grows and grows.
More aggressive.
Yeah. And it would also explain all the Juddy bits.
Yeah. Well, and he was using XK to do that, which is this Superman's version of his suit. Is it his kryptonite? That would be his kryptonite, right?
So, yes, it is the kryptonite of the Bizarro world, but the kryptonite of the Bizarro world actually makes Superman stronger. That was the whole thing of them saying he was using it like a drug in his world. He was hooked on the XK, and that was
he was using kryptonite. Because in his world, kryptonite superpowers him. So, and the XK is his kryptonite.
Right.
Our Superman, so it was backwards. And so, I think by using the XK because of what Bruno had done to his body, I mean, we know that the XK can mutate people or give people powers on our planet. So I don't know. It was just kind of some combination of him being invulnerable. Whatever Bruno did to him made him invulnerable because he tried to kill him a couple different times and he died and then came right back. And so, that was when he's I think I'm going to experiment. I don't know that he necessarily expected him to turn into what he turned into, but they needed that to happen to take him from Bizarro to Doomsday.
But why did they do it?
Because I think they're going to do a Death of Superman storyline, and now they can't.
The script told them that was what they needed to do to defeat Superman, and so that's what they did.
because Lex can't go after Lois as long as Superman is around, and he knows that.
Right,
Yeah.
But Beth is asking more of why did he do it if he didn't know the outcome?
No, I'm asking why the writers did this.
Oh, okay.
Why did the writers think that messing around with Bizarro's bits would turn him into
why did they write it that
Doomsday.
way? Well, like Ryan said, they were trying to use things that they already had to get to Doomsday without introducing a bunch more there was another thing that fell to Earth, and guess what? This thing is this big sort of rock monster thingy looking thing. And it's Doomsday. And then we are going to establish that actually it's a Kryptonian thing or whatever. The comics have added all sorts of crap to Doomsday. Originally, he was just a thing that fell from the sky and defeated Superman. He watched wrestling one day on TV, decided that's what humans do, and then he took on Superman. It's weird. I've read the comic. It was weird. So.
A little weird.
I think this is an instance of when the writers were reading too much about the fan reactions and predictions and saying, we can maybe do that. Just stick it to them. I don't know, but I really feel like they should not have done that.
Yeah. Well, I just felt like the fight went way too long and looked really you could tell it was a TV show budget, but they were trying to go for a movie level fight. And that was one of the things where I was a lot of it looked you could tell that where the CGI began and ended, which you don't want, So that was sort of my thing of it's I get that it's a big budget show for a TV show, but it's not movie level, so you shouldn't be trying to do
don't
a movie
understand
level.
how Superman was able to look at Doomsday's face and see Bizarro because I couldn't even see a face.
You saw the S on his chest.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, the symbol was still there.
Okay, I didn't notice that.
And I don't remember. They might have played the Bizarro theme, so that might have clued him in too.
And maybe he still smells the same.
I do love that the Bizarro theme is just the regular theme backwards. I think that's great.
The Bizarro stuff is great, but
I love the Bizarro.
That's a previous podcast.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I will correct you, Ryan, that his world is not gone. It's still alive and well. In fact, it has two alleys on it, and it has Morgan Edge from our world there. So
good old Uncle.
And that's right.
Uncle's sex pad. We didn't talk about that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
God. Well, he won't be using it, so
Hey,
it's there.
The DoD told us. Yeah, the lawyers at the DoD told us.
Anyway, all right. So yeah, let's say our goodbyes and let people know where they can find us. Let's start with you, Beth.
I'm in bed. I don't go out and do things or go places, so I don't know if you can find me at all. But thanks for letting me be here.
You're always welcome here, Beth. And like once you're feeling better, will Mrs. Whiskers Studios ever be open again?
I'm still not sure.
Okay. I'm just asking because people who have listened to your previous ones know you always plug that. So
I know.
I was just saying, But yeah, so Jess, thank you for coming on and say goodbyes. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to join the discussion. And if you want to hear me regularly, you can head over to the Tomorrow's Legends podcast, where everywhere podcasts are. And you can listen to our episode by episode coverage of every season of Superman and Lois, Stargirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. So we're about to embark on a Legends Season 3 rewatch, if that interests anybody. I'm not 100% sure when this comes out. So today it is almost August of 2023. And so we're starting at the end of August with our rewatch. So come join us over there if you want to get in on that.
Very cool. Because, yeah, I was wondering what you guys are going to do now and until Season 4 comes out.
I know. Well, yeah. So we're starting with one rewatch. We might tentatively pick up another like superhero genre type of show on Netflix or Prime or something like that. So it just depends on how long the strike goes and how much longer until Season 4 comes out.
Yeah. All right. Well, and Ryan, thank you for being on the show and say your goodbyes. Let people know where they can find you.
Well, as usual, I'll never say goodbye to the internet. But you can find me if you're foolish enough to come looking. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, but I really only play on Facebook. And I'm trying Threads. I think I might be the last person still on Threads. But you can find me at Geek Stranger on Threads or Facebook. Obviously, on these fine people's Facebook pages, I'm probably hanging around, stalking them, telling them they're wrong. Otherwise, I'm trying to be at Dragon Con this year. It'll be my first year back since, pre-pandemic. Although I need it. If I can find a room, my wife has found a spot in an all-girls room. So now I need to find a place. I either need to find a room for both of us, or I got to find my own place to land.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
Maybe you should plan this out a little bit further in advance.
Well, normally it's a every year thing,
Right.
But yeah, still trying to work ourselves back into normal. But
That's
yeah,
hard.
you can. Yeah, it is. You can find me hopefully at Dragon Con in 50 days or whatever it is.
It's less than 50 days.
Don't do that to me.
I'm sorry. It's like really down to the wire. I'm super excited. Anyways.
I'm terrified.
It's not as bad as you think.
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
80% of the people on my feed that went last year got COVID. So
I did not.
You were like one of like two, like you and my friend Allie did not get COVID.
I did wear a mask most of the time, but this year I don't think they're requiring anything. But
It's not required.
Well, I heard last year they didn't really, like they said, but like nobody did it and nobody enforced anything, is what I understand.
It was hard to enforce. The only place we were enforcing it was in the track rooms, which I forgot to say that I'm volunteering with X-Track. So if people are at DragonCon, because I know all of us are connected through DragonCon, come and look me up in the X-Track room or during X-Track programming. That's where you're most likely to find me this year.
Yeah, Lee is one of, she used to be the Extract director, is one of the people I have on the show sometimes and whatnot. But I think this is the second year she hasn't been the Extract director.
It is, yeah. Jenny took over 2 years ago.
All right. So yes, Ryan, sorry for interrupting you.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm DragonCon. Yay. Oh, feel free to check out geekstranger.com. It's out there.
That's
it's a
right.
thing.
You needed to add.
I gotta plug it,
There's a
It's
new
up to
Transformers movie for you to review, Ryan.
which I have seen, and wow.
Maybe you could post that one along with the one for Transformers The Last Night that you apparently wrote the review but never hit publish.
You
can publish something together.
It killed my website. I mean, it really did.
But you didn't
And,
publish
Bumblebee
it.
came
so
out
you
in
can't
between.
say it killed your website. You never published it.
Writing it killed my website.
The sheer thought of it killed your website.
Killed your website.
Fair enough. But it's still out there. It's a thing. Geekstranger.com. It's all your happening geek news up to 2019. So go for
it. I still want Article 3 of 3. You have 1 of 3, 2 of 3. Where is the rest of your analysis of like the D23 from 2019?
It's you know what? It's gonna blow you away.
Oh, man. And you had all these years without DragonCon, where you could have taken your DragonCon time and added content to your website.
I had all these years without DragonCon and about 6 months of unemployment. I really have no excuse.
Oh, no.
But you know what? Here we are.
Yeah, see, I miss it. Like every time you posted a link to a 42 cast episode, I got like 2 or 3 more downloads on that episode. So,
well, there you go.
That was the Ryan bump.
Hey, you know what? If I did that now, though, I think there's probably like 40 episodes or something like that.
Oh, probably more than that. Because
I only do
it was
the
still in the
ones
double digits. The last one you linked was in the double digits, and I'm almost up to episode 200. So there's quite a few more episodes for you to link, Ryan.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you mean the supersized episode 200?
Yeah, the super. Oh, actually, funny enough, this one will probably come out. Well, this one definitely come out after episode 200, so because I've already planned what I'm releasing through 199. So,
nice.
And this isn't it. So those of you listening to this will already know what episode 200 is. I don't know yet.
But it was great.
It was
awesome.
Be great. Yeah, no, but anyway. All right. Well, Beth, Jess, and Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's a wrap on Superman and Lois Season 3, everybody. What did you think of the episode? What do you think about the end of the Arrowverse and the DCW? You can let us know in a bunch of different ways. One way is to email us at everything@42cast.com. Another way is to go to our website, 42cast.com, and leave a review on any of the episodes there. You can go to facebook.com/42cast. You can get in touch with us on our X account or on Instagram @42cast. You can also leave us reviews on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you're getting the podcast. With Apple Podcasts, though, the more reviews that we have, the more that the show shows up on searches. So I personally would very much like it if you have an Apple account, if you would leave a review there. But I want feedback. I want as much feedback as you can give me. So please feel free to reach out. Let me know. I always want to hear from people who listen to the show. I also want to let you know about the ESO Network Patreon. That can be found at patreon.com/ESO Network. It's a way to help all the shows at the network. There are various tiers for your contribution level and the perks that you get. You can get early episodes of some shows, you can get exclusive episodes of some shows, and you can get a whole exclusive ESO Network podcast. So if you have the funds to contribute, we would greatly appreciate it. You can find me on 2 other podcasts. They are Time Streams and Legendary Forces. Time Streams, I'm talking about Doctor Who with a friend of mine, Juliet. And Legendary Forces, Juliet and I are joined by Corey, Joe, and Ashley to talk about Star Wars. They're both on hiatus right now. I hope to get them both up and running soon. Time Streams is the priority of the 2 of them. I'm hoping to get that up and running again by the end of the year. We do have additional episodes recorded that just aren't edited and up yet. So hopefully everything's going to go in the right direction. And just like I've righted the 42 cast recently, I hope that I get that on track soon as well. I just realized the other day when I was recording one of the other outros that I never mentioned, or I think I didn't mention, that Beth and I watched Orphan Black Echoes. Since we're not going to do an episode on it, I will just say it was very disappointing. It was not... the fact that it was in the Orphan Black universe made me think it was going to be as good as Orphan Black, and they basically made the story as boring as they possibly could. Part of the problem is that they wanted to make it a successor to Orphan Black, so they set it like 30 years in the future, which already hurt everything because it's already a step removed from the world that we live in, but they also tried to make it grounded. And I think there's a lot of confusion about how the world works, and I don't think that the world building was particularly good. Once they got to the end of the season, having the various actresses interact was kind of fun, and it did kind of harken back a little bit to that Orphan Black feeling, but it was too little too late. So the fact that it was canceled, I feel like it was a mercy killing. But what did disappoint me a lot, because I wanted there to be new Orphan Black at the quality of the original Orphan Black show, and we just didn't get it. And I feel like it's kind of on topic because this episode was about Tatiana Maslany, and even though she's not in Orphan Black Echo, she was the star of the original Orphan Black and played 24 roles in that show, so at least. So I feel like it's kind of on topic anyway. But otherwise, Beth and I are just continuing to watch Rings of Power and Only Murders in the Building, and you'll definitely hear more about that in the days to come, since we're definitely going to do episodes about both of those things. Okay, well, join us back next week when Ralph Macchio will not be joining us, and until then, this is Nathan, signing off. You have been listening to the 42 Cast, copyright 2023. Got a question for the ultimate answer? Contact us at everything@42cast.com. Theme music is Sharper Swords by Brandon Ellis. Check out more of his work at www.cityfires.com. The 42 Cast is a proud member of the ESO Network. And now for some outtakes. Ryan, I still can't believe nobody gave me anything when I posted, like, hey, episode 200 is coming up. Anybody have any ideas of what I should do? Like, literally nobody said anything.
Did I say anything?
No, nobody said anything. I think there was one, like, non-serious reply. I'll have to look at Susan. I don't think that was you. Somebody gave something that was, like, a totally non-serious, like, thing. But, like, it was like, come on, somebody.
You know what you're going to do, Nathan. It's a clip show. It's always a clip show.
I was just about to say, I was like,
if I had the time to go back through, like, maybe, but no, I am not. Editing is already my problem, so I'm not going to do that.
I have it. You start the 42 Cast Awards. Give out awards.
All right, that at least is a thought that I can play with and see if I can come up with something fun. So thank
That's
you.
not a bad idea. Most frequent guest, maybe
I already know
something
who
more.
that is. That's Ryan.
Yeah, I was gonna say something more tongue in cheek. Most terrible guest. Maybe that's also Ryan.
Yeah, like and it's a huge margin between Ryan and the next person. Like it's like Ryan's been in like 70 something episodes, and like Angie has been in like 40 something episodes. It's a huge gulf.
I mean, I'm going to clear it. I'm going to get most frequent guests. I'm going to get obviously most bane of Nathan's existence. I'm probably going to get late guest who's most likely to be late. Guest who's most likely to cancel. I mean.
I was gonna say we could just turn this into a running joke of like of your joke of how terrible he is. Like you, I think that I don't know.
Yeah, just like...
My Dragon Cons kind of cycle. I mean, it just depends on. I mean, I've been volunteering with X-Track. I did that last year, and I'm going to do it again this year. So, but naturally, that just gives them more of my time. But I usually, like you, I'm hitting up the American sci-fi and fantasy stuff because I love their fan panels, and I'm usually on many of them. So I got 2 for this year, so I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, I was on 17 panels in 2019, and
we were on
spread.
like 3 together, which was wild.
It was a pretty even spread between sci-fi classic, sci-fi fantasy, military, Brit track,
that's another one.
And then I had like
X-Track,
one in Apocalypse Rising and one in X-Track. Like,
we were on the X-Track panel, and because we did Shield.
Yeah, Agents of Shield.
Did you also do the Fringe one? There was like a Fringe Lost. Like
at that point, I hadn't seen Fringe. I've seen it now, but I watched it over.
Okay.
The Shield? Wait, was this the Shield X-Track Shield panel that we were on, Nathan?
Yes, you were on too.
I was on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like so. The
in
funny
2019,
enough, Jess and I.
If it was in 2019, I was on there with you.
Right
there, you go.
Right, there was a video panel that Jess and I did together. I think for Kelly.
Yes,
and that's
right.
where Jess and I like actually connected, and I invited her on the show.
Didn't we do Stargirl?
I think this was before Stargirl.
I
think it was
Stargirl?
Like Female Heroes of the CW. Was that the one you were on? You remember doing that? Okay, yes. You were on that one with me. Like, yeah, it was a video panel during COVID. Because that's the thing. I didn't remember you were on the Shield panel with me. So I'm glad that you said that. Like,
no, I was on like 2 or 3 panels with you in 19 because I remember distinctly because you said you were on so many.
I was on 17 panels.
Yeah, you ran one of them, and then I think I was on another one, and then we ended up on another panel during COVID. And then in 21, I had just had a baby, so I did nothing. I attended virtually. I did 0 panels. But I did the Mr. Robot panel after 1 year when I crashed it. They were doing it in X-Track, and the guy that was about to do it is like, I've never seen this show. And I'm like, do you mind if I just like sit down? Because I'm really excited to talk about this. And I did their Mr. Robot panel for like the last like 3 or 4 years until the show went off the air. So that's how I got involved in X-Track.
Yeah, I love that. I love when you've got someone on the panel and they haven't seen the show. That's
I know. And on X-Track, it's always like a small room and a small gathering. And he's just like, look, let's just make this conversation. I've never seen it. And I was like, do you mind if I just like sit down? It's like me and like one other dude like came up and like ran the whole discussion.
This was like my big disappointment in 2019 because one of the things that I absolutely wanted to be there for was the 25th anniversary of Gargoyles. And so they were going to do it on the classics track, and I was like, this is the one I will, if there's any conflicts, this is the one I need to be on. And so Gary and Joe made sure I was on it. But because I wasn't like one of like the whatever they call it when you're not like a guest that sits in the Walk of Fame, but you're like an invited guest to the con.
Professional attendee.
Yeah, professional attendee or whatever. They didn't let me run it. They had 2 other people come on that were professional attendees, but they were like, oh, am I on this panel? Like I didn't prepare anything, and here I am with notes. And they were like, we'll just make it like a Q&A with the audience can just ask us questions. I'm like, none of us have worked on this show. It shouldn't be like an audience Q&A thing. Like it should be a discussion that we, talk about topics because people invariably ask questions we can't answer. And it's just like we're not like people who worked on the show, like, and so like I was so mad that this is the thing I wanted to do. I was prepared. I could have been the host of that panel, and they didn't even give me the option. And when I've been in that situation where somebody has asked me to be on a panel that, like, yeah, maybe I've seen the show, but I didn't prepare anything, I will ask other people, like, is anyone like, feel like, like more strongly about this and you want to like lead it, like, and they did not do that. And I was very mad about it.
Yeah, that's disappointing. And that can be the downside to Dragon Con with everything being volunteer fan led.
It cuts both ways, right? I remember like I was on the Jessica Jones season 3 panel, and suddenly I walked in and Kelly's like, hey, can you moderate this? I'm like, what? I watched it when it first came out, and I'm fairly familiar with it, and I reread the synopsis and so forth, but I don't really feel like I want to moderate. But then I ended up moderating it, and I'm pretty sure I was like the only guy on the panel, and like there was just a sea of like women staring up at me, and I was like, oh god. And so I turned to her, I was like, okay, let's just kind of talk about the show. I went down the panel. There were like 7 of us, I think, on that panel. I don't know. That's another thing.
It's a big panel.
The Netflix shows were very popular. Yeah.
7 people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I don't. The Shield one. What's the Shield? There was like 6 or 7 of us on that one, I suppose.
I don't think
was
it was
a big
that
one.
high. I think it was like more like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it was a 7 because I know Paige was on it. She's another person that I've later connected with. So you were on it, Ryan was on it, I was on it. I feel like there was one other person.
There was one other person. Wasn't it her? Was it her podcast partner, or was...
I don't think so. I don't think it was JD.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. No, because JD's never been to Dragon Con.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Then I don't know who the other person was then. Because I was sitting on the very end. I was on the other side of Paige. You were in the middle because you were running it. Ryan, you must have been at the other end. So
that's the thing about the panel. Like, I hate to say it, but like when I'm in the audience, I do a better job of remembering the people on the panel than when I'm on the panel. Yeah, exactly.
Because you can see them. I know. I'm always like, I'm like holding the mic. I'm like trying to like look down the line, and then no one can hear me, and I'm like, forget it. I'm just gonna look at the audience.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy though. I'm sorry that I didn't remember it was you on that panel for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We actually met before. I thought we did. And 2 other ones too. Yeah. So now I'm gonna be like trying to rack my brains, like which 2 could that have been that you were on? But
I may have been thinking the virtual one, not remembering it was virtual, which is distinctly possible.
Yeah, because it was the women of the CW, like the women heroes of like the DC CW. And so we talked about all like, and I don't think Stargirl was out yet. It might have just come out when we did that video. It might have just
come out. I can't remember.
I know I talked about Mia Queen from Arrow, but we talked about a lot of characters on that.
I probably talked a lot about Sarah Lance since I'm a Legends person.
Right. But all right, guys. Well, this was a lot of fun. And yeah, Jess, definitely if there's anything else that interests you, like I don't want you to just be like you turn up for season 4 of Superman and Lois, like
I know. I try to keep up with your thread, your threads, and if there's something I've seen that I'm like up on, I'll toss my name in. Like, I mean, I saw the Superman and Lois one. I was ooh, if you still need another person, I'll do this. But yeah, I have so much less time to like watch stuff right now. It's the crunch for Dragon Con. I've got to finish Invasion because I'm leading that particular discussion for X-Track. So I have to,
I will be interested. Oh wait, Secret Invasion is on X. Like they don't.
No, not Secret Invasion.
Oh,
there's an Apple TV series just called Invasion.
Oh, okay.
I do need to watch Secret Invasion, but it may fall through the cracks. Okay. All right, fair. I have heard it's not very great. But and I feel like for posterity, I need to watch it because isn't this the whole thing that they've been building to? I guess we're not really.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably important. I'm not sure it's a very exciting
Well, maybe
or
I'll catch the 42 cast where you talk
entertaining
about it.
experience.
It's there. It's not the worst thing, but
I've definitely seen worse things.
Is it better or worse than the final season of The Flash, which I also haven't wasted my time with watching?
Ooh.
That's an interesting question.
I think I'm gonna go down on it's better than the final season of The Flash.
Except for the last.
So I'll watch
It is
that.
only 6 episodes, so
Yeah.
and the final
That's
season of The Flash is 13. So
The problem with Secret Invasion, and this doesn't spoil anything. At least my problem with it was all build up that didn't pay off. I mean, like I was fine. I was like, episode 1, okay, we're going somewhere. 2, we're going somewhere. 3, we're going somewhere. 4, we're getting there. 5, almost there. I can just about see it. 6, I was like, okay, that happened.
Okay. Well, is it supposed to be just a setup for?
well, yeah, there are
things to
characters that
come?
I believe have been set up for other things, but it's just like one of those things where it's like, but this could have been interesting in its own right, rather than just like setting things up for the next, thing. Like I don't know, like I
Moving from A to
won't,
B.
I won't go too far into this because we're not going to spoil it. So.
I'll have to try to watch it before Dragon Con. Yeah, no, I've got to watch that. There's something else I'm watching.
Well,
I'm watching Foundation just because like I love that show also on Apple TV. But I think for the panel, we're only covering season 1. I need to ask Kelly. I don't think the full season will be out by the time Dragon Con is here.
Yeah, Foundation's definitely not on my list, but that's because I'm a fan of the book series.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pay for Apple TV until I'm not paying for other things. Like, so once I'm done paying for Paramount Plus, I'll pay for Apple TV and I'll watch things on Apple TV.
I know that's the problem is there's like stuff all over the place now, but I have Apple TV. So like I'm watching that. I've got Apple TV, Netflix, and Prime Video. So I can watch and Disney Plus. I can watch things on those platforms, but all the other things I don't have. So
see, that reminds me, Good Omens dropped today. And so I'm literally going to finish this and probably go watch the first episode of that.
Still need to finish Mrs. Maisel. I wanted to finish that because I like the alt history is so easy for me to get to since I'm usually in that check room.
I have so many thoughts about that, which since you haven't finished it, I won't say anything.
I know. Yeah.
But,
no. If you ever branch out and do like Apple TV stuff or Prime Video stuff, I'm usually watching.
Well, I did an episode on The Expanse, which is Prime Video.
Oh, I know, but I haven't. I've finished
and I did an episode on The Tick, which is Prime Video. So.
Oh, did you? I don't watch
that was years ago, but yeah, no, I did.
Prime's had some good genre stuff. The Peripheral. Yeah. I've only watched the first episode of Citadel, so I can't talk about that. I don't know if that's
what is the Peripheral actually about. So I definitely saw a preview, like you put on the Peripheral and you're in the future or something. Like I wasn't like, is that what it is? Okay. Yeah.
In a post-apocalyptic time travel, the future is trying to
like the preview didn't really like explain a whole lot. So it is on the list of things I will check out someday. But it wasn't very high on my. I will probably watch Reacher season 2 when it drops. That's on Prime.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's like a lot of stuff on Prime. It's just not a lot of the like genre stuff that we are normally watching.
Well, Wheel of Time's dropping. Season 2 comes out next month, September.
Soon, soonish. Yeah, I think it might be.
Oh yeah, I did Rings of Power.
Rings of Power. That's true. That I still haven't watched that. That's a problem. It's like there's so many things that I want to watch, and I'm like, when am I going to watch all of this? So that's my problem.
I'm going to wait to watch Wheel of Time until I've finished reading the book series to Beth. So
fair.
It'll be a while.
But
then we'll just binge. Then we'll just binge multiple seasons. So it'll be fine.
You haven't seen season 1?
I watched the first
because I'm afraid because I know they've changed stuff, and I'm afraid if they pull in things that are supposed to happen later, so we're gonna go through the book series first, then we're gonna watch the show. So yeah,
all right, that's legitimate. Yeah, they jump around. That's fair.
Yeah.
So.
But
I only watched the first 3, but they jumped pretty quickly. I was like, oh, we're like on book 3 and it's episode 3. that went fast.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to Superman and Lois, Rachel Brosnan, is that her name? As
yes,
Lois.
She's the new Lois Lane.
Yes. And that's great casting. Yeah.
Great casting. I love her.
I am happy that I have no knowledge of either their Superman or Lois.
They will be
fresh to me.
Superman.
I don't know anything about the Superman. I love Rachel, who's playing Lois.
Yeah.
She's Mrs. Maisel.
Okay.
Love her.
That's just like that's about a comedian, right?
In the
Yes.
in the 60s. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Jewish comedian
Yeah.
Okay.
who's a woman.
Okay.
In New York.
I feel
Everybody's
like all
talking
of these
about it. I'm just
details
like,
are
I
very
don't understand
important.
why that is of interest to anyone, but okay. If
It's
that,
hilarious.
It's so good.
that seems very boring, but
No,
whatever.
it's not.
So dumb. It's just, it's good. It's good. It's not
Although-
it's not genre TV. I mean, it's like,
Right.
like
Right,
It's
like
funny-
the stuff that like it's like I made a decision at an early age that the stuff that interested me was stuff with sci-fi and fantasy elements. So, so
And
I
usually
read
me
and what
too.
what do I watch? So
I got sucked into Mrs. Maisel. I got sucked into Ted Lasso. I mean, you get sucked into
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
what is
you can
Ted
watch more
Lasso?
than
That's
genre.
another name I've heard thrown around, but I have absolutely no idea. I keep confusing it with Tiger King, I think. And
Wow.
It's Jason Sudeikis, and he the gist is that he's an American football coach who is offered the head coaching position of a British football team. So,
so
American
soccer.
football,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes. So football to football, but not
Wow.
exactly at all.
Sports.
It's a comedy. But it's very well done. It's really, really good.
Mhm.
The ending was a little rushed.
Okay.
It only has 3 seasons.
Okay.
It's all wrapped up in a sort of nice little bow.
But
So,
again, it's Apple TV. That's the reason.
on
Like that,
Apple.
the Foundation and For All Mankind would be what would tip me over into getting Apple TV.
Oh, it's
Did
For
you
All
watch
Mankind. Because I've
Severance?
heard about that one, and it does sound interesting, but I didn't know where it was streaming. It wasn't something that I've actively searched for yet, but I've heard of it. So, yeah.
Severance was really good too.
Oh yeah, that's
I've heard
another
of it, yeah.
interesting concept. Yeah, no, I've heard about that one. I think
That
the
was
Daily
really
Show
good.
did a thing about it. Like they interviewed one of the cast members.
Upload is that what it's called? That's another genre one on Amazon Prime. It's got Robbie Amell.
Robbie Amell. Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna have a
Cousin.
third season. I hope so. I don't know.
Oh, that's the one where he's like
is.
dead, right? Like and like
Yeah.
they upload
Mhm.
their minds into like a thing. I did see
Mhm.
a preview for that.
Greg Daniels is behind it, who did like The Office and King of the Hill and Parks and Rec, and
I mean, it's a comedy more than anything, but
Oh, okay.
it's got some intrigue, corporate intrigue, and obviously technology.
Mm.
yeah, that's another one. I have a very long to watch list, and my TBR pile of books to read is
Mm.
just as long.
Oh yeah,
or
no,
tall.
the books. I mean, you can only see some of it from there, but like it's
Wow.
books. It's books all the way down. Like
Oh my
it's-
gosh. You're
And-
worse than me. That's impressive.
a lot of them are unread. Like it's sad. Like I just keep
Me
buying
too.
them. I have a problem.
I do too.
I've read probably more than half, but like I just
Well,
keep
that's
buying
good.
like Star Wars books. I just buy Star Wars books because I know I want to read them. It's just like who has the time, like
Yeah, seriously.
Sorry, Kevin Anderson killed Star Wars books for me.
you still make me laugh with that one, right?
It's true. And it's the reason I haven't read the new Dune stuff either. I freaking hate Kevin J. Anderson.
Oh no, the new Dune. No, the new
Oh.
Dune. So, like the only ones I would say are worthwhile to read are the ones that are the actual sequels. The like 5 million prequels they did, don't even bother because they didn't even do their research. This is what pisses me off. Like they directly
Kevin J.
contradict
Anderson,
stuff
we
from
expect.
the original book. Like that it's like, no, like I can point to the part in the original book where they said this.
Oh no.
Like one of them is the son of the author.
I know. That's the sad thing.
I just
I wonder how much.
Very-
I wonder how much Brian actually contributes. Like, is it all?
Mm.
Is he just a name to give it some legitimacy, or does he?
I
But-
don't think
but-
it's legitimacy. I think it's the copyright.
But since
Yeah.
since Chapter House Dune ends on a cliffhanger, I feel like it is worthwhile to read the 2 books that actually close out the main storyline because it is apparently based on an outline that Frank Herbert left when he died. Whereas all this prequel stuff is just them making stuff up to make money.
Maybe.
So like I do feel like the 2 sequel books just to finish out the story are worthwhile.
I'm leery of that. The only series I think has ever actually continued well with the second author was probably Sanderson with Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll see who finishes Martin's stuff because he's definitely going to die before he ever finishes. Song by Fire.
I found it amusing because Terry Brooks said that he finished the Shannon series just because he didn't want to die and have Sanderson finish. He was like, I saw what happened when Robert Jordan died, and I think Sanderson did a better job than Jordan did. And he's like, I don't want people saying that about me.
God.
That's hilarious.
And they're like
there's a little bit of truth to
Shannon
that.
books. They're so many. But anyway.
Oh man.
All right. But yeah, guys, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Take care. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.